he comes in a little bit late and he's hot right now. Like he's very aggressive. Like he just, you could tell something's bothering him, right? And it was during the time where Cain Velasquez was going through his stuff with.
Oh shit, that's right.
It was that day. Like
when he got arrested.
He found out that morning, and I was like.
What's cooking, everybody? I am joined in the bunker today by my friend, Mr. John Rondi, a.k.a. Johnny Drinks. If you are on YouTube and you are somebody who is very interested in how to make some great alcoholic beverages, you should be following the page that John and his dad have, which is called Johnny Drinks. It has over 1 million subscribers. They have millions of followers on TikTok, which is where they originally built an audience, and it was great having them back in here because the last time John was here was early on in the podcast. We didn't have a ton of listeners, and so it's nice to see where we stand all this time later. I think it was like 18 months ago or something like that. So there was a lot in this one, as the title will tell you. Yes, we talked about John's weekend with Dana White, which came at a really interesting time. We also talked about the rise of his channel. We talked about phone addiction and decision fatigue in society, why John nuked his previous company that he built for about 4 years, crypto bros and the state of that whole thing right now, the modern warfare of comment sections, and China's version of TikTok, Douyin. Plenty in this one. Great conversation. Love having my guy come through. If you're on YouTube right now, please make sure you subscribe. If you have not liked the video, please make sure you do that as well. And as always, would love to hear from you guys down in the comment section below. To everyone who is on Apple and Spotify, thank you for checking out the show over there. Make sure you're following on either one of those platforms if you aren't already. And if you have a second, would love to see you guys leave a 5-star review on either one of those platforms as well, because that is a huge, huge help. That said, you know what it is. I'm Julian Dorey, and this is TRENDIFIER. Let's go! This is one of the great questions in our culture. Where is the nuance? You're giving opinions and calling them facts. You feel me? Everyone understands this, but few seem to do it. If you don't like the status quo, start asking questions. Johnny Drinks.
Yo.
What's cooking, brother?
Not much, man.
You're the bartender of the internet.
Wow. It's a big label. For somebody that's never bartended.
Well, you kind of seem like, yeah, we were just talking about it right before the camera started, but like you've done like 600 or 700 different drinks on camera at this point, like from start to finish.
You know what, man? Our content has evolved into becoming more than just cocktails, but we've probably made like 700 videos, which is crazy, dude. Some long form with like 5 cocktails in it, so it's a shit ton of drinks.
You never saw this in your wildest dreams on the first video, right?
Dude, well, I'm trying to think, like the last time I came on here, we were like pretty fresh. It was like kind of where it was sort of up in the air if it was going to go anywhere.
I think you were a year in. You were here early. You were like episode 34.
I thought it was less than a year in, because I remember we were at, I mean, maybe you're right, but yeah, the first video, it's hard when people are asking me like, oh, how do you go viral? Or like, how do you start? And it's like, for me, I admit, like, we got super lucky in the beginning, because if I didn't have that video pop off, we would have never done this. You know what I'm saying? Like, we were never bartenders. We had no clue what TikTok really was. I was always like intrigued by the creator space and making a business and a brand out of creating content, but I never really knew what I wanted to do. And so when he started making cocktails and people liked it, I was like, oh, this is it. This is like a shoo-in for us.
Didn't your sister like tell you on day one or something? Like, oh, download this new app I have, and then you downloaded it and then shot the video like same day?
It was like the funniest part, bro, because I remember the timeline was like February 2020. We were down in Miami. I was with the SOAR crew. It was like Fen, you, and Riley and all them.
Cheers, by the way.
Yeah, cheers, my man.
Welcome back, brother.
So I was with... And Dap had it on his phone because we were at like some table, like a bunch of TikTokers were there. He was like pointing them out to me. He's like, dude, you should make a TikTok. Like, here's how you edit. And so Ant was teaching me how to edit. I come back, dude, I come back home and my dad's like doing a little dumb dance. And I'm like, oh, you know, let me film him. And then he makes the cocktail that night and it pops off. So yeah, shout out Ant who taught me how to edit. I tell him all the time, like, dude, you're the reason. So,
that's awesome. I love when things are just kind of like born out of opportunity, just like something crazy. You didn't think anything of it, but then your dad obviously, like, he knows all this shit, and he was never, you were telling me, he's never even been a bartender or something?
Dude, no, I mean, that's like, the reality is like, there's a lot of camera work, right? And my dad is great at what he does, and I think as we evolve, I realize and appreciate more and more how good he is at what he does, right?
Yeah.
Like, when we went on live with like the UFC, and like we were both pretty nervous, right? Rightfully so. And he did his thing, man, and he rocked it. And for me, I was like, wow, thank God I have this guy with me. But back to like the original statement, we never were bartenders, but we learned as we went. Like, okay, people want to see what a gimlet is. Okay, what is a gimlet? Let's go Google. Like, you know, let's check this thing out. And I'll tell him, I'll feed him the information. Here's what this is. Here's what you have to do. And sometimes it's like literally on the fly. Like we have one phone filming, one phone on Google. Like here's how you're supposed to make this drink. Here, you know, shake it, don't stir it. And sometimes we mess up, and that's kind of just the nature of the of our, I guess, personalities. But it is what it is.
He definitely, though, like he clearly had a major hobby of it his entire life. Like he knows his shit so inside and out, man. Even when you see people, other guys like you've collabed with, talk about it, and then when I talk to people who are like mixologists and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, follow the shit out of that page.
Yeah,
like he's a god.
It's so funny, bro, because like a lot of it is, again, not taking anything away from him. A lot of
I'm sorry, can you just pull this up? Yeah, there you go. That's better.
A lot of it's confidence. Like he presents himself like he knows what he's talking about. Most of the time he does, sometimes he doesn't. He's kind of like just winging it, and people let us know in the comments like, hey, you did this wrong. We don't care. Sometimes, like, you know, we're not doing anything a disservice. We always try our best to make the cocktails as accurate as possible, but everybody slips up. So it's almost like people are waiting for that one moment to say gotcha to them. But
that's the whole internet, man.
It is, bro.
And there's a lot of people who will call out shit that's also like, they won't care. Even if you have shit sourced, like they'll just be like, "No, that's a lie," and they'll just, it's just it's what it is, man. Like you can't let it bother you if you're putting out good work, and also like not for nothing, but if you're also showing up like every day, like you guys are. I mean, maybe not every single day you're posting a video, but you guys do like 4 a week or some shit.
Our cadence was 4 a week, and now that I've gone back and forth because again we're learning on the fly, and there was a point in time where I was very algorithm heavy and no, you have to post at this time and you can't post this type of content and you have to. Yeah. Now I'm under the impression of I understand what good content is. Yeah. I'm going to put out good content as consistent as possible. I don't care if this video is going to go viral or maybe just be like an okay video. Post it. You know what I'm saying? Because you really never know. I would rather see somebody. And I was talking to my buddy about this, who's a comedian. Oh, Joey, you had him on.
Joey D.
Oh, hilarious. Like the dude is so fucking funny.
He's fucking awesome. I love that.
He's a special. Like he is one of those dudes. He's just special. Like he has the
He's
it
gonna
factor.
make it.
He is. And I told him like straight up, look, bro, if you could make one piece of content a week and it's really really good content, versus one piece of content a day that's kind of just okay, maybe lower quality, maybe it's just yourself. Do that one, because like the discoverability of 7 pieces of content in a week versus 1 is far greater. At the end of the day, sometimes it doesn't really matter. I mean, you watch some of this viral content on TikTok, somebody fucking talking to their phone about their story and they're sitting in their car. You know what I'm saying? Where somebody took a month to think of this idea, goes and posts it, and it flops. You know what I'm saying? So
it depends on the content though too. I want to amend what you said and then tell me if you agree with me. You put it like 7 days, I forget what the exact word was, but you were like okay content or whatever. The quality has to be there. Now, if you're somebody who is like, you know, a shock and awe content creator, like someone who goes out and does quick interviews on the street, or somebody who just like says something crazy in the camera, like even that kid. You ever see the guy who just literally does a video where he goes, in New York?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, you can put out a lot of that, and it's going to be the same shit every time. But if you're in like certain spaces where it requires editing and stuff like that, there's this fine line between doing too many just to participate and doing enough to make sure you're constantly in front of people. If you fall into the like my opinion is, if you fall into the category of like trying to make everything perfect that you're not putting out enough, which a couple times I've accidentally done that when I was on hot streaks and like trying to be too perfect, then you're not in front of people. That's a problem. And it'll always underperform what you want. But on the contrary, if you put out way too much because you just want to be out there, every time you put something that's like in front of somebody, it's more points off where they're more likely to skip it. Now the algorithm's going to tell them like, oh yeah, they don't like that video as much anymore.
100%. And I think the only reason, I think it does depend on your niche. It depends on where you're at as a creator. If you're a new creator, throw shit at the wall, hope it sticks. Like literally do whatever you think is funny or could be your niche down the road because you don't know yet. If you've established yourself, like, not to say, you know, whatever, we have found our groove. I can't now start posting every day or every hour of the day, me sitting here and doing nothing, because that's going to harm me more than it would, you know, do some benefit. Again, it depends on where you're at. I think a lot of people use the excuse, I don't know what to do, I don't have the time, or it takes me a month to think of an idea. If you're, again, if you've never started, just do something, because you never know.
Yeah, and look, if it's something that provides value, which can literally be like just pure entertainment, if people fuck with it, like they'll get behind it.
Dude, I mean, it's 60 seconds out of your day that you don't have to worry about anything else other than that, like subtle video.
I give you a fuck ton of credit, and I don't know if I've ever told you this before, but it's something I save in my phone because it was so spot the fuck on. When YouTube Shorts was happening early on, like they weren't really pushing it, right? So nothing was happening for you either. And then I watched you in July last year. It was like almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah,
just suddenly, boom! And I'm sitting there like it's my subscriber count. Like, this is awesome! I'm pressing refresh like every 5 seconds. There's just like 10,000, 20,000, 30. I'm like, holy shit. And so I started making some again in August because I'm like, okay. Like I talked to you, I talked to Chris. I'm like, there's a shot, like it can work. I guess they are starting to push it a little bit. And so they sent one of my videos in August. And now I'm like, okay, this would be like TikTok. Now they know, like I've established I can keep someone on there for 107% average watch time at millions of views. And then every video, like it would do like 105% watch time, send it to 500 people, 600 people.
That's,
And I'm sitting there because there was other shit going on. And I was in such a dump, like in beginning of October, mid-October or whatever, and you sent me a text. Like I said something about like the total number of videos posted. Yeah. Maybe I'll make up a number. I think it was like 250 or something.
No, it was more. It was way more.
And you're like, well, maybe you got to make 251.
I remember that, bro.
And I looked at that and I was like looking at the phone and I like looked up and I'm like, God damn it, I do.
and
then it went.
But the point of like that is like more credit to you, because I've said that to so many people that have seen our page. And I think in the summertime, we were like one of the fastest growing accounts because of shorts. And I gave everybody the strategy. I was like, look, if you're a TikToker and you try to transition it to YouTube, go and take every one of your videos that have over a threshold. My number was 1 million views. Take every one of those videos and put them on YouTube every single day. Like do not miss a day. I don't care about post time. I don't care about the day. Just go and do it. One of those is going to pop off. And then like you said, once they start popping off, it's kind of like it's off to the races. And then once you run out of all your million views, then you can sort of titrate it back down to 500K or whatever it may be. I said that to so many people. You're one of the only people that listened. Like everyone's like, yeah, dude, great idea. I'm going to start tomorrow. They maybe started tomorrow and stopped in a week because they got bored or they didn't see the results as quick enough. So for you to just stay with that is literally just like, that's all it takes. Just go and fucking do it.
Yeah, and like YouTube, to give it credit, like how they've done it on shorts, it is at a point where like, if it's good, they'll take it.
100%.
Like once you it took them a little longer with me. Like they didn't do it the first time when they should have, but like then once they said, okay, all right, yeah, boom, every video, like old videos started doing millions that hadn't done anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. And now, like, I know what I got to do. When I post a video, I can usually, the first 5,000 views, I can see the data.
Oh, you know.
And I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Like, I know which way it may take 2 weeks or it may never happen now because it's not good enough.
Well, I mean, we just talked about it, right? It's like focus less on the outcome and more on the input. We know, to an extent, what really good content is. We know when we make it ourselves. We know when we see it. Just make good content and post it.
Yep.
Don't look at the view count. Yeah, engage with your followers and do all that crazy stuff, but don't over obsess with, like you gave the example. I have 105% watch time. Why is this video not doing well? The reality is I don't know, and the reality is it's out of your hands.
Yep.
Give that up to somebody else. But if you over obsess about that, what happens is you get less confident, you stop posting as much, and now you try to like transition yourself into a new direction. Like just save all that noise. Like just keep posting, and that's gonna come back. And it did for you too.
How do you stay with your channel though? Because obviously, for people that have kind of picked up on this at this point, because you've explained some of it, but you have what, like 2-3 million on TikTok now, something like that.
Yeah, but we have 2.5 on TikTok. It's so funny, dude, because last time I remember we were talking about this, and whatever number I said, I thought it was a lot. And looking back, I'm like, oh man, that's a small account, which is terrible. But yeah, so we have 2.5 on TikTok. We just hit 1 million on YouTube. Like
congratulations!
2 weeks ago. Thank you. Like 130 on Instagram. Again, something that I don't focus on it enough. I kind of just post and forget it. I think I should really put more emphasis on growing an Instagram page, but that's a whole separate conversation. I do Pinterest, which again, if you're trying to create a business out of whatever brand you have online, don't sleep on Pinterest and don't sleep on Facebook, because they're hidden and often overlooked views that could be worth a lot of money for you and for somebody else.
Wait, and Pinterest has video?
Yeah, dude,
really?
So my audience is like very manly, right? On YouTube, it's like 92%. Yeah. Pinterest is my it's finally my chance to reach the ladies. And so our audience like 50-50, which is crazy on Pinterest, but that's a lot of girls for us.
Your audience is 92% male?
Dude, who wants to watch fucking two guys make cocktails other than guys?
I feel like a lot of chicks would watch. It's definitely guy content, but it's also like a lot of chicks would like that content too.
Oh, I go to the bars, man, and this is recent. Like I get noticed, and it's weird how I get noticed because I'm behind the camera most of the time, but I guess I have like a...
Less now.
Right. Well, yeah,
less.
and I'm trying to put myself out there a little bit. I go to the bars, and I would say out of 100 people that recognize me, 99 are dudes. I literally just had I had my first girl at the bar the other night, and she was with her boyfriend. She's like, "Oh my god, you're that guy. I love you. Like, let me get a hug." And the boy, like, we both dapped up. It was a very wholesome.
Couldn't even be single either.
Oh no, of course not. And not even close, bro. I get to the bars, and it's like dudes are all over me, and it's so good, bro, because they're so excited to see me. And I think the best thing about my dad and I is like what you see on camera is what you get in person. Yes. We try to be as personable as we possibly can. I'll never shoo you away if you come say what's up to me. I'm always trying to like buy you a drink or have a conversation. And my dad is better than me. Like, he'll come up to you. If he sees somebody looking at him because he knows, and it's like a younger guy that's a little bit scared to say something, he'll approach them. I'm like, Dad, come on, man.
Don't ever lose this, dude. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is great. Don't ever lose that.
I know. Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing because, like, it's kind of crazy when you're, like, with the internet and how you make content now. Like, look what we're doing right here. No one's here.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't see these people.
Right.
So it's just, all it is, I don't feel anything with it. And I have to, like, remind myself, like, hey, it's not just numbers on a page. Like, these are real people.
Real humans,
who are, like,
bro.
into it.
And I think it matters, too. Like, again, we found our purpose when we realized that we were filling a void for guys or kids that didn't have fathers in life. Or
can you talk about that?
Yeah.
Actually, this is great. Tell people, like, what you're doing there, like, with your dad as, like, the father figure. I love this.
Definitely. So again, we started our page as like cocktail makers that weren't really cocktail makers, whatever. When we started doing like the father-son advice, like, Dad, how do I tie a tie? How do I shine a shoe? What are your best advice tips after college? Our audience was very receptive, number one, but were not shy to tell us how special and how important that was to them, because they just lost their dad, or they never had a dad, or they're dads and they're afraid because they don't know how to raise their kids. Like, there's so many different instances that it opened our eyes to the fact, like, wow, this is way bigger than creating cocktails online. So we found our purpose, and I think for us, like, that's what keeps us going is, like you just said, these aren't robots commenting this. This is an actual human being that doesn't have a father figure in their life and is looking at me and my dad to fill that void. Like, that's crazy. That's what gives me chills right now to think about, because sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't take a step back and I read these comments and I say, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate that. On to the next one. And sometimes, and I just had this happen on a post where a guy commented and he was like, I can't tell you how much this means to me. I just lost my dad a year ago. You guys bring me back some sort of peace. And like, dude, I never would have thought that starting this TikTok would have that sort of impact on somebody's life, but it is. And it's heartwarming for us, but again, it keeps us going in a direction that I think is so much bigger than any other cocktail maker in the space. It just gives us the opportunity to do stuff off of the app and establish ourselves as real, and I hate the word, but influencers, worldwide.
Yeah, look, man. I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing, and it doesn't surprise me one bit, because when you are making that much all the time and putting it out there, over time you can't fake that. No. You know what I mean? Like people, you always had this relationship with your dad. You guys are tight as could be, and like he loves this because he's like, I get to do something for fun where my kid does all the work and I get to spend time with my kid.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh my God, this is incredible. Right. You just tell me what to do on camera. Great, I'll do it. You know, but that's like the camera turns on and you're just doing what you already do together, and like all the little relationship things you guys have. And that's why it was so seamless when you made left turn off the road, like, hey, we're gonna do some of this content too. I think that was like last August or something,
Probably
like
something like that,
something like that. And it was like, no problem, right away. I mean, they were going viral because people are like, oh my god, like these guys are dad-son goals completely.
That's it. You know what's funny, bro? Like, and I will never take away how great and special our relationship is, but when you're painted as a picture of like the perfect is never a place you want to be as anybody, or at least portrayed as perfect, because nobody's perfect, and now you almost get nervous because you have to live up to that standard. And I think everybody at 26 years old, the dynamic you have with your dad, it could be at 26, it could be at 30, or it could be a little bit younger. It goes through these ebbs and flows, right? There's a point in time, if you have a father figure in your life, that he's your idol, and you wanted to be just like him. And then you go through times where he's like, you know what? I'm better than him, because you're naive and you're young and you're stupid. And
did you have a long period like that?
I had a period where me and my dad are very similar, and that's why we butt heads so much, is because we're both stubborn, but to a fault sometimes. But at the end of the day, we always mend it, and we always make sure that we do what we have to do. That being said, I was so impressed by him when I was younger, but now that I'm a man and I keep getting fed the information that my dad is such a great guy, it's nerve-wracking, because like, oh shit, I gotta live up. I have big shoes to fill. And I have comments, and I think people comment this just to get at you. It's like, you have big shoes to fill. You'll never be like, you know, you better keep up with your dad, type of stuff like that. And the pressure doesn't get to me. And not to say it's frustrating, but I want people to know, like, it's real. You know what I'm saying? Like, my dad and I have a great relationship. It's not always perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. And you shouldn't strive. Right, you shouldn't strive for it to be perfect. So I have finally come to the realization that my dad is a fantastic person, whether or not he was my dad or not, right? If he was just a human being, I would love to be with that, you know, just hang out with that guy or learn from that guy. But there are things that I have identified that I could do a little bit better, and there are things that he could do a little bit better that I can. And so it's less about a competition and more about an acknowledgement of like, what are my strengths versus what are his strengths.
Yeah, man. I mean, it comes across sometimes, like when you're watching it, how similar like all the mannerisms and stuff are,
Right.
which a lot of people have like with their parent, especially when they look like them a little bit.
Yeah.
But it also like adds to it, because it's almost like when you'll do some of the videos where you stand in for him, it's funny.
Yeah.
Or then you like flip back and forth, and people are like, oh, haha, I get it. And that's why also, because you've been doing that a lot, like in the last, probably since you were on this podcast last, that's when you started really coming out from behind the camera and doing a lot on there. Like now, you know, people recognize both of you. It's not just like at the beginning, like it was kind of just your dad for a while because you were behind the camera, but now it's like, oh, the Rondi boys.
Right,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? And that's important, because I'm always curious how these different, like especially YouTube channels, which you guys obviously are now as well, it's like you see these vloggers, let's call it what it is, build a relationship, like family vloggers and stuff, which, you know, we've talked about the dark sides of that, which you guys don't practice, but like, you know, at least what they show on camera, that you'll see these families like form relationships with the audience, and people are living vicariously through them. And I've never, like, it's so fascinating to me, because that wasn't a world that I was at all involved in, but now, like, not by choice, I follow your dad and you and what you do, and I get it. Like, I see that after a while, once you get used to like watching a video, like a few videos a week or something like that, or like the YouTube video you guys put out, it's like you're waiting for the next one. It's like a podcast. Like once you get into a podcast, like you want the next one to come out. It's just a different like part of the brain.
It's funny, bro, because I've never been like that either. I was never a YouTube guy like before this stuff, and I almost wish I was, because I have to understand the obsession, and I finally did, because I watched my videographer Chris was showing me all of Casey Neistat's old videos. And
he's been on this podcast, by the way.
Yes, Chris has been on this podcast.
Number 86.
There you go. Quick plug. So he showed me Casey's, I think, like first or one of his biggest videos. It was Nike's ad. It was like, do more, I forget what it was, or like stand out something. He had a tagline. And I watched this video, and I immediately was like, you know what? I get it. That was so addicting, and I did the exact same thing that a lot of people do. I went from his first video and watched all of them, and I was like, because in the beginning I was like, who cares about this guy? Like he's not special in any way. He doesn't do anything that cool. Why are we all obsessing? And then I watched it, and I was like, I get it. And so I think that's always the goal as a creator, is like become so addicting that you could do literally whatever you want to do, and people are still going to watch you.
Yeah, and there's a fine line there, though, too. Like, I always use MrBeast for the example of exactly what you're bringing up, because MrBeast is the full package. He has content that when I tell you I'm the farthest thing from his target market, I'm the farthest fucking thing from his target market. But I know if I click one of his videos, I'm going to watch the whole thing. I might feel bad about it after, but I'm going to be happy I did.
Exactly.
Because he keeps it. First of all, he's such a likable guy. He's nice. You guys are very nice and likable on camera. That's key. It comes across, right? But then it's also like they find a way to constantly give you a kernel of keeping your attention and not taking for granted the time you are investing, whatever it is. If it's a 5-minute, well, 10-minute video, 15-minute video, more likely with him, whatever time you're spending on that, he values every second of that. And so when I see creators do that, like maybe these early vlog guys who I know a lot less about, I've looked through some of it now, like just studying, like probably not as deeply as you have at all, but like that's probably how they built the audience. Like they constantly, if they're posting like some 8-minute vlog of like their week, there's just all kinds of like hits coming from all over the place, and it just keeps people on their toes where they feel like it took a minute to watch it.
That's one. And again, I think the like quick edits is like a big trend now. It's like you said, how do I take a 10-minute video and make it feel like a minute? That's how you do it, right? It's just you keep dropping little nuggets here and there, and that's how you learn how to create. And I'm nowhere near where I want to be as far as like understanding this space, but it is a science. Like, how do you keep somebody so addicted to your video that time passes so quickly? And it comes down to like there is always an award for watching the full video, right? If it's a food video, the award is seeing the final product. If it's a drink video, it's seeing the final drink. If it's a MrBeast video, it's the results of whatever challenge it was going to be. So they dangle the carrot in front of your face for so long until finally, and you see it all the time, it's like the thumbnail or the clickbaity tagline could be like, we set $1 million on fire, and it could be a 20-minute video, and in minute 19 is when they finally set the dollars on fire, but they keep you so engaged the entire time that you don't care that it took that long to reach that. And that's like the goal for us is not to be clickbaity and stuff like that. It's just to keep you so entertained that you want to watch the full, whatever it is, 8-10 minutes of a video. And
there's also like a fine line with clickbait and legit bait. I think I've talked with Chris about that a lot. Like he's the guy who brought that up to me for the first time.
Quick versus legit, yeah.
You can practice some of that because it is a world where you do have to get the click, unfortunately, on YouTube, which sucks. So you have to do some things. But I'm always grading everything I do. Like, is what I'm putting in here matching the expectation of what actually occurs, right? So outside of that, you can then do some things where it's like you can get a little bit, you can stretch the expectations to anchor people. So like I noticed this the other day, and I've never noticed this before, so this is like a brand new live analysis. I haven't done like a deep dive on it, but like MrBeast posted this video where he has, if you look behind you, I didn't eat food for 30 days. Okay, it was a 13-minute video. I watched the whole video. What does the top right corner of that thumbnail say?
Day 19.
You know what day he lost to, spoiler alert, you know what day he stopped like the 30-day challenge?
What?
14. So he put day 19 on there because you're watching it and you feel like it's moving faster than it is. Because when he's on day 7, you're like, wow, we're already on day 7? He's going to do 19 days in 13 minutes? And we're only 4 minutes into the video? No, he didn't make it 30 days. He stopped. Gordon Ramsay cooked him something. Total spoiler alert. But Gordon Ramsay cooked him something on day 14 and he had to eat. So he ate it.
Wait, so his thumbnails he didn't eat for 30 days, and that's a lie?
Well, and now you're getting into some, I hadn't thought of that. He has set that expectation on previous videos that he'll put what the challenge was in the past tense, and he doesn't always make it because there is also another reward if he doesn't make it. So like he didn't make it and they got to shave his head.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So he doesn't have hair now.
That's actually a really good way of putting things because look, he's the genius, right? Yes. He is the pinnacle of what you want to become as like a vlogger. And that is,
I'll stick that thumbnail in the corner, by the way, for people.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you have to do. Like to create content that is like watchable, it's got to be above and beyond. Like we did a video where the title was, we tried $30,000 bourbon, and it was a video. It was a picture of the thumbnail was awesome. It was like one of our best.
I remember that video.
Right.
Yeah.
The barrel in total would have been about $30,000, right? So I think the bottles would come out to like $200 a pop, something like that, depending on the angel share and stuff. So people were not enraged in the comment section, but there's always going to be people that have something to say. that was the comments. This was not that's not a $30,000 bourbon. The entire barrel is. Who you trying to fool? This is clickbait. But at the end of the day, what were the results is it was one of our best videos, right? So there is a fine line between literally lying and stretching the truth a little bit just to get people interested in what you're doing.
No, this is a really good conversation. I don't think we've ever talked about this in a podcast before, but it gives people like listening right now who also like, you know, they're listening to this because I'm a content creator and they listen to my podcast or watch my podcast. Like it takes them inside of like how we have to go about this. But like on YouTube, there are some hardcore rules with what goes and what doesn't. Yeah. Even on shorts, like I know one thing I love about the shorts is like, I know for a fact if I did the job or I didn't.
Yeah, for sure.
If I don't touch a certain watch time that I have an expectation on based on the time of the video, I accept it. As I said, Julian, the video wasn't good enough. Maybe it wasn't a topic people were interested in enough, you know, or whatever. Like I know I did some Julian Assange videos from Andy Greenberg's episode a few weeks ago because Johnny Harris had put out a 30-minute Julian Assange video. And Johnny Harris is like the GOAT of video editing and with journalism on YouTube. And so I'm like, oh, there must be interest in that because it did pretty well. But when I talk to people afterwards, they're like, you know, it's such an old story at this point. Like the videos are solid, but doesn't generate a lot of commentary or buzz. So I was like, okay, I'm going to have to try something different from that episode. But it's like when I saw those watch times coming in and they weren't there, I was good with it. So now when you look at longer videos, though, the difference you're talking about here, and I'll put this picture of the thumbnail you had in the corner so that people can see it. But the difference is with shorts, yes, they do put it into feeds and people can click it. And I do look at my click-through rates on shorts. And so if they're lower, I question that. But most views are coming through the feed where they don't pick it.
Right.
So the title, if it's like related to the first things they see, the title can be better than it actually is without that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's so it's like a weird vibe. When you're doing this, you're competing with so much just to get in the feed, like all the little metrics that YouTube wants between click through, watch time, which is hit or miss depending on what time of day you're catching people, and if they want to come watch later and they only watch a second, that counts against you. You know, stuff like that, that you have to find a way to compete with all these other assholes out there who actually do clickbait the fuck out of people.
Exactly.
Like they don't actually offer it. So it is a fine line.
It's very hard. And like it also comes down, and MrBeast talks about this a lot, like it comes down to just picking really cool topics to do. Like if I'm a creator and we're in the cocktail niche and I'm going to sit there and my videos are boring, I can't even make a thumbnail or a clickbaity title to get you interested in that. So you got to start doing some cool shit. Like things that you would literally, if you take yourself out of it, would you watch this for 5 minutes or 10 minutes? And if you wouldn't, don't blame anybody else other than yourself when your results are shit. You know what I'm saying? That's something I've had to do for myself is like, okay, this video flopped. Well, why did it flop? Would you have watched this? And if my answer is no, why did I even put it out there? You know what I'm saying? So that is more of the, I guess the challenge right now is less, and we talked about this, less about consistency because we could do that. It's more about making sure we stay as creative as possible and make entertaining videos.
Yeah, man, 100%. And it's like the other thing that you're really good at on the back end that people don't see is like from day one, you've been really smart on the business end of things and the making connections end of things. And I mean that through like also literally what comes through on camera, like collaborations with people in the space, developing actual credibility in the space through doing that. Like who are some of the guys you've had on now?
We just did one, Nick Hamilton actually was the actor in It, which by the way, it was the highest grossing scary movie ever.
Wait, he was in that?
Yeah, he was the kid. Like the jerk off.
Is this the dude, the
Australian? Nick Hamilton.
I think I'm thinking of the wrong one.
You're thinking of Wu-Tak Bar Chemistry?
Yeah.
The Asian?
Yeah.
So Nick is the Australian dude. He does cocktail. He's a mixologist. Like this dude knows his stuff. He has the neatest bar.
Pale guy, reddish hair. I am thinking of the right guy. Okay.
So he has the neatest bar at home that I've ever seen in my life. Like this thing was insane. So we just did content with him for Father's Day because his father's in Australia. So we made it for TikTok's dad, you know, all that good stuff. But like that's the shit, man. Like I'm unfortunately in an area where there's not too many TikTokers, like in my space in North Jersey. But we got to make do with what you got. So if there's somebody around and they want to collaborate, why not do it? Because you never know who sees your content that never saw before, or because you're with them, they finally started to follow you, stuff like that. But if you're in LA, you're in an area where people are pretty popping off on any one of these platforms, you should collaborate with as many people as possible.
Yeah, I feel like Jersey doesn't do the best job on social media with like connecting. Maybe I'm just like out of the loop on that. But like talking with you, there's plenty of people who have sizable followings in the state. I mean, shit, Lance 210 is 10 minutes up the road right here.
Right.
Yeah. He's like the biggest of them all. But like, you know, I don't see a ton of that. Like your collabs that you're getting are with people who are in New York or are national, international, right? Yeah. Like you're doing all these things. And by the way, how the fuck did you end up in Dana White's Lair?
That's a great question. So
yeah, let's go through this whole thing.
So Dana White obviously is founded Howlerhead, which is a banana whiskey, which tastes actually banana bourbon. Tastes really good. They sent us the UFC sent us a bottle a while ago, and
how'd they hear about you?
Just like through, I think the UFC, the kid who runs their account on TikTok is like 21, so a small, younger kid. He reached out to me. He was like, "Hey man, love your content. Would love to send you a bottle of Howlerhead." Nothing like no strings attached. There was no like collaboration or campaign structured out, which I normally do. But for me, I was like, I love the UFC. I'm not going to be an asshole and be like, oh, well, I'm going to charge you this much money. Like, whatever. So we took a little bit of time, and we did a celebrity liquor review, which is, if you want to pull it up, we did it on YouTube. I think it's Celebrity Liquor Review Part 2. And we had the Howlerhead.
Didn't you do, what's her name? Kendall Jenner before that?
That was a separate video, but yeah, we did do that. Okay. So we did the video, and I check Instagram like a couple days after.
This one?
Yeah, there it is. Yep.
Now, since you own this, am I allowed to put this up and you're not going to copyright tag me?
I don't know. Maybe. No, you're good. I think you're okay.
Do you want me to put it on?
Yeah, please do.
All right.
So that's the video right there. They saw that and didn't even ask me, didn't like tell me. They chopped it up and put it on Instagram. And I was hyped because I was like, oh shit, like they're using our content. They must really like it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to DM Dana and see if he answers. And I'm like, hey man, thanks so much for repurposing our stuff. Like, would love to collaborate one day. And he likes it. And I like geeked out. I was like, yo, no way. Like, look who just liked my stuff. And I think I responded again.
He didn't follow you, right?
Yeah, no, he responded. And I don't know if it was him or one of his like guys, but he's pretty active, so I think it could have been him. I then reached out to Howlerhead and was like, hey, this is who I am, this is what we want to do. Eric Yee, who runs their social, reached out like pretty much immediately and was like, hey, let's try to figure out what we could do. Hopped on a FaceTime, and we're throwing ideas out everywhere. Like every idea possible, we're thinking about it. And I said to him, because this is what happens, I think, a lot of times when younger creators or people that are newer in the space, they get very excited. And when they have an opportunity, they're thinking they're shooting for the moon. And that's like great to do. But I always like to say, all right, that's great. And that should be our goal. What's our step one? You know what I'm saying? And I said that to Eric because we're thinking of all these crazy ideas, being the bartenders for UFC. And I said, okay, what can we do first? And he said, well, we have a fight in 2 weeks. Maybe you guys fly out here and you can make drinks for Dana. And I said, that's it. Like, let's focus on that one thing. And so we set that up. Right. And I was like, you throw that out there for us. That's the opportunity. And I said, what commitment do we have from Dana? Like, are we going to have 2 minutes with him, or do we have a full hour to really make him cocktails? And he said, no, like Dana, likes your content. He wants to promote Howlerhead. So let's go and do it. So we ironed everything out. They flew us out to Vegas for the fight. I forget what 2-6 or something. It was Masvidal versus Covington. So they flew us out. We didn't know what to expect, but we did some promo stuff with Cody Garbrandt, which is a fighter. Did like a truth or drink with him.
So they set up all this stuff.
They set up everything. And then the day of, because again, we didn't know what to expect. We get there, we're in his personal bar. We have 4 cocktails. We have
up in his office.
Yeah, it's fucking insane.
How big's his personal bar?
Bro,
I feel like he's got a whole wall.
Oh, it's insane. Well, the bar is like nothing compared to what he actually has. So like we make him drinks. We made him like 3 cocktails. Oh, actually, no. He comes in a little bit late and he's hot right now. Like he's very aggressive. Like you could tell that something's bothering him, right? And it was during the time where Cain Velasquez was going through his stuff with.
Oh shit, that's right.
It was that day. Like
when he got arrested.
He found out that morning, and I was like, oh, me and my dad.
And he walks into a meeting with you.
My dad and I look at each other, and we're like this. We're like, let's go home. Like I literally was like,
oh no.
My uncle was there, and he looked at us, and he's like, Like literally, we all were under the impression of, hey, let's pack it up. It's okay.
Oh man,
this is the craziest part. And again,
can you tell people what happened there, just so they know?
And I don't know all that happened. Cain Velasquez was involved in a murder case. Something happened with one of his children being like molested. I don't want to speak out of line here, but something happened with like somebody was harassing one of his children, molested them or something like that. He went and did something. I think he might have killed.
He didn't kill anyone. I'll give the details just because I've looked at this closely because I think about this a lot. It's like such a tough situation. But Cain Velasquez, who's like he's a UFC Hall of Famer, like an all timer, and well liked guy, very very good guy, like never been in trouble, anything. I guess he has like 2 or 3 kids. I think it was his youngest kid, his 4 or 5-year-old, was molested over 100 times at their daycare by, I believe it was the son of the people who ran the daycare, who was like a 40-year-old man. And so this is out in California. That guy gets arrested on these charges. You can imagine Cain's a father. This is like the worst thing outside of murder that can happen to your kid. And so he goes to his initial hearing, the guy, and he gets released.
Yeah.
So he's being picked up in the car and driving away from jail with all these charges hanging over him. And Cain Velasquez, as a father, lost it. And he went after them, chased them down in an intersection, and went and shot inside the car. And unfortunately, he's not a very good shot. That's really bad to say right there. Yeah. But he missed, and I think he shot one guy in the arm. And so he is currently in jail with no bail, awaiting this whole thing. But hey guys, weekly reminder, if you're enjoying this episode, please be sure to share it with your friends and on social media. I appreciate everyone who's been hitting me up in the DMs and even on the public comments telling me about how they're sharing it with friends. That's everything I could ever ask for. So let's keep that rolling. You guys are doing amazing. Thank you. You were there the day that this broke, and Dana said, was this the day where Dana came out and said like Cain did what we all say we would in that situation?
How about this, bro? He came out and said it to us before the exact words you just said. He said that to us. So he walks in, and this is like during like midday, so it is pretty early, and we don't know what's wrong at this point. And
you didn't know the story,
right? Because we're sitting there, we're like preparing for the drinks. He comes in, he's super hot. We're like, what's going on? Eric, his like manager, Eric, is sort of like talking us through what just happened. He goes on and talks about it, and he said those exact words. Cain went and did what every father would have done. And
says they would have done.
Right.
He
yes.
did it. Yeah.
Right. And he's hot in the face. We're all sitting there like, what the fuck do we do now? And again, when I talked about how my dad truly is special and good at what he does, I'll never forget this. He pats Dana on the back and goes, you know what? For 30 minutes, let's forget about reality and let's just have a drink. And Dana was like, all right. So
wow.
I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what the fuck do I do? So Chris, my videographer, like, all right. He's like, all right, John. He's like, intro the video. I'm like, what's up, everybody? I'm here with Dana White and my dad, and we're gonna make. I was like, oh shit.
We're all happy to be here.
We're happy to be here. Like, we're having a great time. So we had 4 cocktails in our Rolodex. We made 3, and we didn't. Again, if you watch the video, you can actually see Dana's tone sort of change. First one, he's like still a little hot. He takes a sip, he likes it. Now he's starting to like get into his groove a bit. He's super comfortable. We didn't know what his timeline was going to be, so we made 3 and intended to end there if he had to end. My dad's like, hey, look, we have a 4th drink, but if you're busy today, totally get it. It's fight day. Like literally, it was day before fight. He goes, no, let's keep making drinks. And at that point, I was like, oh man, we got him. So we made a 4th drink, had a great time with him. He then, again, we thought he'd have to like book it out of there. We stopped filming. He's like, do you guys want a tour? I'm like, fuck yeah, we want a tour. So he's touring us around his building, his office, his personal gym. When we get into his office, bro, I've never seen anything like this. The amount of pictures he has on the wall.
Wait, where was the bar?
It was in a separate room.
Oh, he's got a separate room for the bar.
It was insane, dude. So his office has like the rarest saber-toothed tiger skull, one of the rarest samurai swords, has a big picture that's worth like millions of dollars. The analogy that I always give is like, if you were to hand me $500 million, that's how Dana acted. Like, he was so humble and excited to share what he had. And honestly, what that did for me was so eye-opening. Because for a guy that is like a little bit new to having, I hate the word fame, but like whatever, you have what you have, you don't know how to handle it with other people. Because internally, what I have going on right now is literally everything that I've always wanted. Like, I've said this and I've spoke it into existence almost, and it is really awesome. And when somebody approaches you and says, hey, John, what you're doing is super cool, in the beginning, you're kind of like way too humble. You're like, oh, you know, it is what it is. Like, let's move on. Let's talk about something else. Now, because of meeting Dana, I'm like, you know what? It really is. Like, this is so awesome. Like, isn't this great that I get to do this? And people are so receptive of that, because I'm not being an asshole about it. I'm not bragging about what I have, but I'm allowing you to share that with me. And then what that allows you to do is when you have a win, I'm the first guy to share that with you, because I love that. So Dana, with everything that he has, was still appreciative enough to want to share that with other people. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So he was
you're saying it's not, if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying it wasn't, none of it was in a gaudy way or whatever.
Not
it's
at all.
just like, hey, yeah, this is some pretty cool shit. You want to check it out?
He was so understanding that what he had was so cool and such a blessing that it made you feel so great to be. It was never like, hey, check this one out, check that one out, I'm so much better than anybody. No, it's just like he knows what he has and he loves it. So
he must have felt really comfortable though too, because like, I can't believe your dad did that. It's like, hey, let's forget about reality for that was some wild shit, man.
Some crazy shit, bro. So that was a crazy day. He then brought us like we were like first row in the weigh-ins. We were like one of the first rows at the actual fight itself. It was they treated us like actual celebrities. It was insane.
Yeah, there was one video that I was fucking crying about. I don't know which one it was. I should have it pulled up, but I don't. Where you guys were like in the Octagon training center. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Do you know, was that when you were doing like a collaboration with the fighter?
Oh, when I rolled around with Claudia? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Hold on. But there was a video where it was you, or it was your dad and Dana. I don't know like what they were even talking about. I wasn't even paying attention. But it was like they were going back and forth about something in life. And then you just look... You look in the back of the video, and suddenly it's just like you, like, oh shit, the camera, like wave and then like leave, dude. It was fucking hysterical. You kind of had to be there to watch it.
Was it on mine?
I think it was on.
Keep going.
I thought you put it on Johnny Drinks.
Yeah, that's it.
You post so many. Which one?
Wait, go back up. One more. That's him. Oh, no,
right. Yeah.
Dude,
This is it. This is it. I'll stick this in the corner. I may have to put it without the volume so people could just see it.
So this was one of the coolest things too.
Where's the shot? Yeah, I think it was like a motivational one like this.
It was probably in the actual YouTube.
Maybe you posted it, because these are the cuts, but it's not.
I don't know.
Shit, it was so fucking funny though. You were
it was
just
probably on the
like,
full the full YouTube. But that dude, that was his personal gym, and he's reading a Bruce Lee quote. That there was two moments that really stuck out. That was one of them. Because it was just like it was so genuine. Like he was like, this is my favorite quote. This is what I live by. And it was just more or less about like, if you're not gonna go do what you really want to do, you might as well be dead. Like, go live a purposeful life and go at least try to do and set your goals super high. And he's a living testament to that. You know what I mean?
That guy's a beast, man.
He's a beast.
I mean, he really, you know, if you've ever listened to like his story and how he was just like, it was a combination of don't take no for an answer and find a better way at all times. And he saw something that no one else did. Like the idea of in a society that continues to get more and more focused on like humane and safety as we were moving in that direction, he's like, no, people are going to want one thing in the opposite direction and they're going to buy it. Mm-hmm. And he went there and no one, like, they're like, oh yeah, you're going to do a cage with an octagon with people fucking killing each other with every limb. Yeah, people are going to watch that. And they did, man. I mean, what people see now is the UFC as it is, as it's been now, I'd say it's been big like this for like a decade, probably, like at this kind of size. But like, they don't think about the 15 years leading up to that.
Dude.
You know, the 20 years leading up to that,
when they were killing people in the octagon,
and when not a lot of people were watching it, wasn't you know, they didn't have any deals with ESPN, huge pay-per-views. It's not like he was a billionaire all those years. He was fucking like making the payments and getting by and bootstrapping this thing. You know, he had some good luck along the way too, but the guy he's a machine.
And that's, again, what I appreciated, because he is so willing to like adapt, because like you just said, if he wasn't who he was, the UFC would have stayed as this gnarly, no rules fight club that nobody really cared about, or networks wouldn't be able to pick up, right? But he is so with the times. Even him, with the size that he has, saying, let me have somebody like Johnny Drinks on to promote my Howlerhead bourbon, shows how understanding he really is. Because there's a lot of people that start their own brands of stuff and think they're too high and mighty to take anybody else's help with influence. Like, this dude is way bigger than us as far as like a follower count and an influence count. Yeah. But he's willing to say, hey, let me work with these guys because it's going to create great content, great buzz, and help my brand grow. You know, and that's humbling.
You know what the genius of your content is, though, with the drinks? You guys have the greatest marketing setup in the history of marketing setups. I mean, I'm sure someone will come up with something better, but like it's up there because you get to do placed advertising on things you like. Exactly. So you are picking out a drink that you want to make. And you say to Dad, all right, well, what are you putting in that? He says, I'm putting brand X. And you say, all right, bet. Let me hit him up. Because what are you going to do? Your content, the reason it goes so far is because a lot of people save it. Because it is 60 seconds or less of a free directions, step by step, with a visual of how to make a drink. So people are like, oh shit, I want to make that this weekend. Boom, let me save it. And what do you do in there? You list out all the ingredients, including the brand of alcohol that you're using. So when people then go to make that drink, they're like, all right, what do I need? I'm going to the store. Oh shit, all right, he put Tanqueray in this, I'm going to get Tanqueray.
Exactly.
And it is like, you don't have to say, and by the way, this video is sponsored by Tanqueray. It's understood.
Right.
And every video, I mean, you get paid a lot of money, but I'm sure they still underpay for what they actually get, because then if people buy it and they like that drink, guess how they're going to make that drink forever moving forward? They're going to make it that way.
Absolutely. And I think that's one thing, like pricing for content is very hard to do. Keep in mind the future value of your brand and that this content lives evergreen. Like, I have people literally now coming to me and saying, oh, I saw the video that you did 6 months ago. And they thought I posted it yesterday. You know, so that's just how the algorithm works sometimes. So when you price yourself out, realize that they're not getting that worth in a week. They're getting that worth forever. You know, so if it's not worth it for them for the first week because they didn't see like that direct ROI, there's so much more value. Like when a commercial runs, that commercial's done once they stop running it. Your stuff lives forever. So keep that in mind whenever you try to price yourself out. And like you said, whatever a brand is willing to pay on you, they're seeing a return on that, because they wouldn't keep paying you if they didn't. You know what I mean? So the value you provide is probably a lot more than what you're charging.
Have you talked with Dana since you were there, or his team at all?
Yeah, so
they pumped about the content?
Yeah, dude, I mean, they were so happy. We were so happy about working with them too. Their biggest fights are normally at MSG in like October, November. So we already talked about like we want to do something really, really big there, because we're 40 minutes away. Yeah. So whether it's like the same situation, we create cocktails with Dana White, but we do something at the event, like live type of thing. There's so many opportunities, because I think if we do.
You did something during the press conference, right? You may have said that quickly.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the next day, so leading up to the fight, the day before, they did the weigh-ins, and on the weigh-in show, it's like Michael Bisping, Laura Sanko, and they do like a bunch of like random stuff sometimes, like games. And one of the features, this was actually crazy. One of the features was having expert bartenders, Johnny Drinks, on, and that was the point where I looked at my dad, and we were both like, the fuck are we doing? Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, I know real bartenders are like punching the air right now. Like, we got, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that was actually, it was a little like discombobulated. Like, they didn't have the ingredients we needed. We weren't sure where we were gonna, because it was live. Like, it was, okay, go, you're on. So we didn't have a lot of time to prepare. And again, he might have been nervous. I don't really know. He didn't appear nervous at all on camera. So he was making it. He was making his drinks. He was doing his thing. He was making people laugh. He was the pro at that time. It was his show for the 5 minutes that we were on. And that's like, man, this dude's got it. You know what I'm saying? So he made that very easy for me. But yeah, they didn't give us too much guidance as far as like what we should and shouldn't do. So it was kind of like all on us.
Yeah, you guys had a full, like, they really, every single spot. And like you're pumping the howler head, that's what it's called?
Howler head, yeah.
At each end. So like, I mean, you say like in a way that you're surprised that a guy at his size gets that. Look, man, you don't get to where he is without understanding how things work. And you're right. There are people who lose that once they get there. But to me, he's always struck me as a dude who is very aware of where pop culture is.
Definitely.
For all its ups and downs that come with it. But he seems to get that. And so, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he's got a team of people saying, hey, there's these guys doing this shit. And then obviously, like, they saw the same thing we just pointed out, you know, like, this is the most organic way to get the name out there. Like, how did you make this X drink, whatever? Oh, I put Howlerhead in it along with this stuff. Howlerhead, bet. I'm gonna go get that.
And the benefit of Howlerhead is it is in a league of its own. There's not too many banana whiskeys or bourbons out there. So
is it any good?
Dude, it's actually good. Yeah, if you looked at my review, and I would be real, if you looked at the review,
I'm gonna turn off the cameras for a second. You just tell me, between you and me, was it good?
It was awesome. I'm dead ass. I
left the cameras on.
Yeah, yeah, right. Fucking suck. No, dude, the first taste, if you see the reaction, my dad and I were both like, holy shit. Because at the time, we didn't have any ties to them. I could have ripped this thing apart, which would have been the worst. If it was real, it would have been the worst thing ever. But we tasted, we're like, oh my God, this thing is great. That's why they that's why they reposted it.
That's what you should have done, man.
We're like, fuck this
You
stuff.
and your dad should have been in on it. Like, yo, we're gonna say it sucks. Like, yo, this is fucking garbage.
All my changes, like, fuck this stuff. Yeah, right. No, look, we're real. Like, I've had plenty of stuff where like we didn't like it, and we're like, that's terrible. And we've actually had brands. I won't say the names. This is actually pretty funny. One of our reviews we did, because we do a lot of like seltzer reviews online and drink reviews, and we did one for a pretty popular brand. I won't say names.
Oh, I saw this one.
And so he drinks it, and he hates it.
Yeah.
And that brand happened to have been like reaching out to us, or reaching out to like an agent that I had. And they're like, yeah, like, look, we would have loved to work with them, but we can't now because they just told 8 million, the video did really well. They told 8 million people they hate us. Like, it would be super unorganic. So like, look, there's a price to be paid, but at the end of the day, now we are known as being so real, and I think that's why brands want to work with us so bad.
You're honest.
And I tell people all the time, like, look, you're paying for placement with us. You're not paying for us to lie. So if it's a review and you want our honest feedback, we're going to give you that honest feedback. I'll always give you the chance to not post it, right? If you don't like our review, I'm not going to like post it out of, without your consent. But that's the reality. It's like, if some people don't like this drink, we're going to be honest about it.
Some of those like younger crowd type drinks, you know, like the different seltzers and things like that. Yeah. It sounds like the brand's not thinking of it this way. And I kind of get that from like a business partnership perspective. But that video doing 8 million views where your dad didn't like it, as much as people like and respect your dad, it might, especially on TikTok, have the opposite effect, that Streisand effect, because they're like, all right, well, he's an old, dignified guy. Exactly, like, I'm just looking to have a good fucking time, bro. Yeah, they fucking buy it.
Any publicity is good publicity from that standpoint, because we're not telling you it's going to kill you. You know what I'm saying? He's just like, I don't like the taste of it. You're going to go. I would rather, if I was a brand, and what I always try to do is if we are striking a brand deal, I like to reverse engineer everything. I want to say, if I'm doing an ad for Doers, if I were Doers, how would I want my influencer to post? And that's how I do my videos. So not that I would intentionally say Doers sucks, don't try it, but I would rather have a video with 10 million views that's a little bit subjective, like he might have liked it, he might have not, it was just okay, versus a video with 100,000 views where I'm like super sponsored and this is an ad and hey, we love this stuff and you should go buy it. Your hit rate is way better with 8 million. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's how we approach ads.
It's a weird game when you think about it. There's so much psychology to it.
Dude. And that you can't get caught up in it. You know, it's like, that's why authenticity and being honest is always the best approach.
Yeah.
And that's our benefit, is we can afford to be pretty selective with the brands we work with nowadays. We only work with brands we like. I'll be very straight up, like, hey, yeah, this is an ad, or we're promoting this brand, but we would not promote a brand we don't like. You know what I'm saying?
That's key. I mean, I think I've always been about that. Like, with doing this, I've had, at this point, plenty of brands reach out, usually for deals that like aren't that good, so it makes it easy. But like, I'm like, I would never use that product in my life.
How could you promote it?
No. Like, the two that I've been promoting for the longest time are 8 Sleep and Privado VPN. I use both.
Really?
The 8 Sleep is fucking incredible. If you don't have one, you should get one.
I don't.
But, you know, the Privado VPN is one click and it's on. It's beautiful.
Really?
Works at full speed. Incredible, right? So if I'm using both and I like them, and in this case, love them, I definitely love the 8 Sleep. The VPN is more of a utility. So I don't know if you, like, love something like that. But, like, now I can't imagine not using it. So I guess that's, like, a really good thing, right? If that's how it is, then I have no problem talking about that, because if someone else buys it, like, I want them to have the same experience I got, exactly. Right? But if I'm just shilling this product X, whatever it is, it's like, I don't know, man. But when I get to a point where I have people coming to me with the offers who have vetted it and explained it and understand things more and actually have the time to look through this, and there's a higher volume, then I'll be able to say, okay, that definitely, that no, that you know what I mean? And now you can actually push them. So I'm looking forward to getting there.
And that's the thing too, man, because you got to also realize, like, there's an opportunity cost for everything you do, right? So you get paid however many dollars to run an ad, but you go then have people actually go try the product, and you lied in that ad and they actually hate it. You now lost the loyalty from all those people. Was it worth that much money you took?
No.
And it almost never is. Unless it's $1 million for an ad, right? Losing your dignity and who you are as a creator is never worth it, because you'll never get that back. If you're now the ad slut that all they do is run ads on things they actually don't like, that's your rep, and nobody cares about your content anymore. And you see that happen a lot on TikTok, because these people are normally a little bit younger and they got hot for no reason. You know what I mean? They kind of just struck gold in one thing, and now they have a lot of money coming their way, and they don't know what else to do. So now their content suffers because every one of their videos are an ad, and now they have no chance of getting that back because they lost their authenticity.
Yeah, and that's a scary thing. Like, especially with the short form feeds, again, you don't have to worry about that because it's organic. You know, like when you and I have talked in the past about, and you're always an ideas guy and you're throwing out some stuff I could do, it doesn't work. Because and like, to your credit, like, you're realizing it when we're spitballing as well, because it's just like, that would be so out of the ordinary and so, you know, like, okay, now you're just using this feed to monetize me. And again, you are so at the victim of the algorithm with that stuff. And every time you put out something where someone has a negative experience, you lose people for a long time.
Absolutely.
Until you hit a bomb again, and maybe it'll go in their feed.
Hard to get it back, though, too.
Hard to get it back.
You know?
Really hard. Like, I'll notice I'm on TikTok very little these days. But when I would be on it more in the past, like, I would notice there are creators who I would engage with for a while, and then I would just engage with them a little less, and they disappear. It literally happened to you once, like maybe when you were blowing up on YouTube. On TikTok, I then wasn't seeing your videos. Your videos had always been first in my friends feed. And so what was happening was I would see your videos on YouTube. And so then I'd be on TikTok, and I'd be more likely to not stay the whole thing. So for you, I usually try to stay the whole thing. But then at that point, you know, you're at like 1.5 million. I'm like, all right, he's doing okay. But what happened? Then they stopped showing the videos. So I had to retrain that. I had to go in and like sit on your page for like 10 minutes and just let each one play. And then like 2 days later, it started coming back in again.
Dude, it's such an interesting thing, because the two things, like, I noticed, I have anecdotally in the comment section on YouTube, people are like, oh, it's so weird. When I subscribe to you, I don't see your content anymore. It's almost like YouTube, like, once they gotcha, they don't, like, that the dangling the carrot is showing them all of my content, and then once they got them, as in the subscribe, they don't feel the need to show that content anymore. But it's almost like, how do you keep or maybe it's like they subscribed, now they see way too much of my content, and instead of watching the full 60 seconds, they're only watching 30. So they're almost like shooting themselves in the foot. My mom does the same thing. My mom has a TikTok, and she's like, it's so weird, you never come up on my For You page. I'm like, well, number one, your For You page is a bunch of dogs and like how-to things. But number two, like, as soon as my video comes out, what do? Like, you go, you like it 1,000 times because you think you can like something 1,000 times, and you share it 500 times, and then you stop watching the video. So you probably don't watch everything all the way through. You don't comment, you don't share with other people. So like, and I also think TikTok isn't dumb. They know when something is force-fed into somebody's hands. Like, I do it too. I have 4 accounts on my phone. And I try to play the game where I'll swap different accounts and I'll like it and share it from each account. But I think it's more a device thing than an account thing. So they notice and identify, and they actually call it like a junk view. So sometimes when they see too many junk views, they'll like, that'll like stir up the entire thing. So
I don't touch it.
Yeah.
With TikTok, my
Let it rock.
cadence, and again, I care a lot less about TikTok now, but this is my cadence on every platform. I post it, I go away.
You have to
leave it.
Watch. So right before this podcast, I literally texted. It was for an energy company called Lost and Found. So shout out Lost and Found Energy.
Plug. There you go.
There you go. Great dudes. And they taste really good. Just posted a video. I texted him and said, hey, I'm gonna be out of pocket for 3 hours. I'll get to the comments after that. But that's so much better for me because if I wasn't doing this right now, I would be on my phone like refreshing every 5 minutes and just like, oh man, how many likes and shares do I have? And it's such an addiction. We just talked about this before. Like, there's a lot of pros to what this app has done for me, but my life is consumed by my phone. And like, I notice sometimes, I think the biggest problem that I've identified.
I love hearing from happy new customers of the 8 Sleep Pod Pro cover because every single time without fail, they tell me, I don't know how I lived without this before. The 8 Sleep Pod Pro cover comes in queen or king sizes. It goes right on top of your current mattress, and it is wired directly into 8 Sleep's proprietary app, which measures your sleep stages throughout the night, every single night, so that you get the best sleep possible. It measures all kinds of stuff like your heart rate, the number of tosses and turns you have, your optimal sleeping temperature, which you also have the ability to do some customization with. So I like to sleep cooler, so I set it to like -4, -5, and then it'll change throughout the night based on how deep I'm sleeping or like what stage I'm at. And as I like to tell people, you'll sleep 6 hours and feel like you slept 8. So if you use that link in my description, along with the code TRENDIFIER at checkout, that's TRENDIFIER, you will get $150 off your own 8 Sleep Pod Pro cover today. Very, very important. Use that code TRENDIFIER, TRENDIFIER at checkout in order to get that $150 off and start sleeping better today.
And at least I'm accepting it. Is that I find such boredom in like reality sometimes. I'll sit with like people that I like my family or my friends. I'm like, you guys are boring compared to my phone. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go to the bathroom for 10 minutes because I have to go check my feed. I gotta check how many notifications I have, and like that's a shame. And doing stuff like this, things that force me to get out of my, there's no other option. I can't go get my phone right now.
Right.
It's so refreshing because I'm enjoying this moment so much that I haven't thought about checking my phone notifications once. I don't even care. So I think it's like, you got to realize when you're in this space, what you're getting yourself into, and try to take a step back as much as you possibly can. And like, I think that helps from like a content standpoint too.
Yeah.
When you get so sucked into your niche and you think that's all that exists, like the fitness space is what I use an example as, because I know a couple people that are in it. And not that they're toxic, but there's so many people that are so toxic in that space because they're young and they don't realize that like there's so much more to life than looking good in a picture. Like, great, you've achieved a great body. That's fantastic. Go live life now.
They're also some of the fakest people alive.
It really does upset me because you feel bad for them that they can't think of anything else other than content creation. And thankfully the people that I surround myself with have identified that really well, and they don't fall into those same traps. But even me, dude, I get the same way. You know what I mean?
Listen, Gavin's a world champion.
Gavin isn't a content creator first. He's an athlete first.
Yeah. So like you're seeing the good, right? But I know exactly who you're talking about. Everyone listening knows too. Like, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Those dudes that like, and the reality is, bro, think about it like this. If your reality is mostly social media and all of your pictures are hyper edited, and Gavin actually does a great job editing. Not to say he doesn't look great, but he's edited some of my pictures. I'm like, damn, bro, I look good. But think about like the subconsciousness and the insecurities that you don't have to walk around life knowing that you do not stand up next to the pictures you took. And people, every time they see you in person, you think at the back of their mind that they're thinking, that dude doesn't look the same way he does in pictures. That dude isn't as tall as I thought he was going to be. That dude isn't as jacked. Like, that's the initial thought every time somebody meets you. That's fucking terrible. Like, it blows my mind that people live in this world, and it's a shame.
People are caring less and less about how it looks 2 weeks from now versus how it looks right now based on the number of times they get the thumbs up or the heart. That's just what people do. It's so fascinating to me because, you know, I don't really get that. I look at some of my early Instagram posts when I first got myself on Instagram. I had been on Instagram marketing for people for a while. But like, yeah, I kind of like, now I look at those posts and I'm like, well, I guess I played the game. Like, this is what you were supposed to do. I'm like, this is the dumbest shit ever.
Right.
Because it's like, well, what do you, some of them are like very legit and like happy moments, stuff like that. And those ones I appreciate. I'm like, that's a great post. But then other ones, it's like, what? Why'd you post that one?
Right.
Like, you knew what you were doing when you were doing that. Right. And they're not anything special. I mean, I'm an average Joe. But still, like, there's a whole thing where it's like, well, what's going to catch their eye the most? When you're doing that in content, and I'm talking like video content where you're making things that people have to interact with, you know, it's a fine line, but you can think like that a little bit. But when people get into like just the visuals, and this also does include in like video content when they're making things look different than they really are.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how do you look yourself in the mirror if that's not at all what it is?
If that's not really you, and I think that's the problem, is like everybody as a content creator, and it's okay, everybody puts on a character. My dad and I are characters on camera. I think the goal is to make sure that your character resembles the real you as much as possible. It's never going to be the same, but make sure they resemble you as much as possible. So you could be confident in yourself on camera and in person. When somebody meets you, like we said before, somebody meets you, they're getting as close to as possible the person they saw on TikTok or Instagram, whatever platform.
Yeah, I think you guys are pretty much right there. Like,
we try.
I don't get the vibe of much changing because you're also doing it in your environment.
Yeah,
like you're doing it around the house and shit. Yep. Like it's such a daily routine now. Which, by the way, how many times, like, when you guys film shit, do you guys film like 4 videos on the same day?
I try, because like when you're in the, and you get it as a creator, like when you're in the groove, you're in the groove, and happiness and authenticity comes across in the camera. It's very hard to fake that.
Yes.
So when I got my dad in a good mood, when I'm in a good mood, let's bang out 4 videos. Why not? When we're not in good moods and we have to do a video, let's do 1 because we have to get it done and move on to something else. If I know that we argued or we're about to argue, I'll cut it. And I'll be like, you know what? We made our video today, or let's just not film. And I've had that happen several times where we're not into it. And we were about to make the video, we're arguing, or something happened. He's busy. He has a real job and a family. He has a lot more stress than I do as like a human. So I get that. And I see that in his eyes, and I'll say, you know what? Let's not create content that's not going to do well. Let's just end it. Let's live to fight another day type of shit. But again, I've done days where we've shot 4 or 5 videos in a 30-minute span just because we're rolling. YouTube videos we do all in one day. So we'll shoot like 4 YouTube videos in one day. We'll do like 2 every 2 weeks, so like 8 videos a week.
Because I'm just saying, last time you were here, you wouldn't even need a carb, and you guys are fucking drinking every day. It's really sad. I don't know.
Weird,
like, you
right?
stay in great shape.
Well,
I don't know, man.
That's the funny part, because like the reality is, do we have liquor in our diet? Yeah, we obviously we drink, and we enjoy drinking. Do we get that banged up? Rarely, no. I mean, you may see me pretty banged up on a Saturday night in Hoboken or down the shore. That's different. Nobody's counting that, right? We're not talking about that right now. But like during the week, we make a video. We may split that drink. We may pour that drink down the drain. We may make that drink with water.
You would waste the drink?
Dude, wait, how about this?
You can't waste the drink.
My dad hates wasting the drink.
Can't do that.
He looks at it, he's like, what are we going to do with it? I'm like, pour it down the drain, bro. We have so many bottles. He's
Give
like,
it to that mongoloid adopted brother of yours.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the beast.
That is not your father's kid. I'm sorry.
How about that, bro? He's the one that doesn't drink. He eats super clean, doesn't drink. Come on. Well, he's trained. He's in football season right now.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
He's a grinder.
Yeah, what happened there?
Dude, I wish.
I'm obsessed with that. That makes no sense.
Give me a couple inches, man. I don't know.
I'm going to put a picture in the corner so people can see. There was,
of us.
By the way, your sister got married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But at the wedding, like, I just saw the picture of like the family, and I just went like this and chopped it, and you see his entire upper torso and abdomen, and you see nobody else because they're all below there.
How funny is that?
He's a fucking D1 6'6" mongoloid, and you know
he's a big dude, bro.
You guys aren't quite 6'6". Sorry,
not yet. No, I'm still growing. No, but like that's the funny part is like you gotta live. Again, that's the problem with like some people in the fitness space is like they get so over obsessive that they forget about like real life.
Yeah.
I try to live in like a 90-10 rule. So like if you see me drinking or eating something pretty shitty, that's what you see. I eat like a dog every other meal of the day. Like I literally eat the same thing for breakfast, lunch, second lunch, third lunch, and dinner. Like I will eat, and my family will attest, I will eat literally ground beef and rice and keep it moving. Because for me, it's like, I love to enjoy food. So
you and me got the same diet.
Right. I don't need to eat bullshit every time I eat. I want to be able to say, oh man, let's go out for sushi. I'm going to enjoy this meal. And I feel like I'm going to enjoy it way more than you because my last 10 meals have been beef and rice. You know what I'm saying? So I keep it simple. I keep it moving. I go to the gym. I like to work out.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, because like just you don't need every meal to be this cuisine that like shocks your world. It's fucking food, man. Eat it and move on.
Eating is a utility to me right now.
Yes.
It is strictly it's time I have to waste where I'm not working, and it is I want to put shit in my body that's going to keep me alive.
Correct.
Right? So I don't enjoy my food. It's a process of like chewing it enough to digest it and get the fuck up here and get after it. And I think like, you know, you're farther along than I am and you're at a point of success, but like your grind has not slowed down one bit. So like you're on all the time, and also, you know, you take care of yourself. Like you work out all the time, like you're very into maintaining a healthy lifestyle, as you pointed out overall. So like you probably, I'm guessing, approach it like the same way. Like, all right, I got to get this done because I got to get to the next thing. We'll worry about, like you said, having a good meal this weekend somewhere.
Right, exactly. I love food, bro. I love eating like delicious.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? But like at the same time, I'm not a fucking child. I don't need a snack. I don't need to munch on fucking chips. Like I think for that, like I don't know, man. Get your priorities straight. You know what I mean? You need that bag of chips right now. You're probably bored. You're probably not even hungry. You know what I'm saying? So little tips like that help me out, and I just keep it very basic.
I think you've heard people say in the past. It's been passed around a bunch as a quote, but like. It'll be like when you are doing something where you forget to eat and you don't care.
Yeah.
You probably found your thing or your passion.
Yeah.
And that was like, as I got out of college and was at my job, I started to think about that a lot more. And I started to realize, even though I did still eat like exactly like that, like fucking ground turkey and rice, like that was my go-to because I don't have enough time to cook shit, right?
Yeah.
But like I would realize that would be more of something I looked forward to or a highlight, and I'd be thinking about it like, ooh, yeah, I get that lunch is gonna be fire today, right? Whereas like when I'm doing this, sometimes it'll be like 6 o'clock. I'll be like, oh fuck, whoops, yeah, I gotta go get something.
It's actually very funny because I used to be hyper obsessive about like the food I ate and what I put in my body, and you should be, but you shouldn't. I'm sorry. You should be conscious. You shouldn't be hyper obsessive about anything. I think it's a bad addiction to have. So when I would be like, oh, I have to eat this many meals a day, and I can't eat this, and you demonize these certain things, and you really do not need that in your stress Rolodex, right? I feel like there's so many things that need to stress you out, that food should not be one of them. Like eat and move on. So like for me, that is a really good point. I used to be conscious about like I'm eating way too much protein. Now it's like, fuck, I'm not eating enough. And I noticed that. Like, you go to the gym, you're not recovering as well. And you're not putting up the same weight as you used to because your diet was lacking or your sleep was lacking. So for me, it's like, as long as I get 4 to 5 meals in a day and most of them have a lot of protein in it, that's it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, I'll forget the exact number, but I think it was between 30 and 50,000. I heard Jesse Itzler talking about this one time, the entrepreneur, where he talked about decision points during a day. And this really affected me when I heard this. He's like, every little thing you do is some sort of decision. There are things that are subconscious that require the least amount of brain cells to focus on it or realize it's even happening and therefore deduct from the energy you have for the day. Then there's things that are more conscious. So like, you know, picking up something and lifting it, that's more conscious. It affects you more because there's a physical toll to it, stuff like that. But he's like, the average human has between 30 and 50,000 decision points a day. And every decision point stacked on top of each other is like a brain cell stressor. So the more decisions, like in content, you know, those days where you have 100 things to do and you don't get it done because you never know where to start.
Right.
Like that happens every day for me. It's very stressful because then I'm like, wait, I can't even. I'm trying to decide how to make a decision to decide, right?
Exactly.
And it's so hard. So like when it comes to food, literally, I want it so simple so I don't have to think about it. I go downstairs, I get what I have.
Exactly.
Done, right? Because I want to put whatever that energy is into creating something.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a lot. Like the respect I have for people who built things over long periods of time that were highly complex, which anything great, that's usually how it is, whether it's creativity, business, whatever. I mean, I have such respect for that because the toll you put on your mind to constantly move from A to B to C to D and do it in the simplest possible way so that you can get through as many letters as possible is, I mean, you can't understate that.
But yeah, that's what I think Mark Zuckerberg does that. He wears the same shirt and same pants every day, or like the same color, just because like that's
Jobs.
That's one decision less that he has to make. He keeps it moving.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I think a bored mind is the worst mind to have. Like that's when you start thinking of things you should not be thinking of, like what am I? What should I be doing in life? What's my purpose? And am I worth it? Like, keep yourself busy, man. I don't care if you're. And I think I've noticed now, and I'm not old, but like at 26, I'm a lot older than I was at 20 to 22. That's an age group where like you're either about to end college or you just ended college. You're trying to find yourself. You're a sponge to information. So you take 1,000 different opinions on one thing and you don't know what to think, and it's frustrating. And I remember feeling like this. Is like when I was trying to do Stunited and I was hitting wall after wall, it was like,
tell people what Stunited was.
So when so when I was in college, I started, and that's funny, I haven't talked about this so long. I started an app called Stunited, which essentially evolved into like an academic marketplace for students to upload their assignments and then barter on, you know, what the exchange would be.
Legalized cheating.
Right, and you could see why that went pretty wrong at the end of it, but that's a whole separate conversation. For me, before we started to hit the ground running and see some traction, it was a lot of conversations with myself, because the biggest frustration wasn't that I had too much work to do. It was that I had nothing to do. I could sit around and do nothing all day, and nobody would tell me, hey, you should go and do this, you should go and do that, because there's no roadmap. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and
when
you're in charge.
When you're in charge, like, so I would sit there, and on my computer, I would look and stare at my emails and be like, I can't get this thing moving. What the fuck do I need to do? Yeah. And you try to think of, it's almost like the rat on the wheel. Like you don't know you're just running in circles. You don't know what to do, and that will drive you literally insane. And there were points of times where like mentally, I was not in a good place at all. It was like a very hard time for me because I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what my worth was, and I finally found something to just keep pushing on. And now every day I wake up, I don't got to think about how happy I am or how appreciative I am. I know it. I give my thanks, and I keep it moving because I'm just so excited to keep doing what I do.
You know what else, though? You have people in it with you who are in your environment. Mm-hmm. Because with Stunited, and like, you know, for people that hadn't heard of that or hadn't heard our last podcast, this isn't something you did for 5 minutes. You did this for 4 years?
Dude, I started when I won Rowan's innovation competition or like entrepreneurship, whatever, when I was 20, and I didn't stop until I was like 24.
Yeah. So this was a long-term thing. You build a user base. You had a great concept, and like it needed a little more development, but you worked on it for a long time. This wasn't like some overnight, like, oh, it didn't work out, you know, whatever. But I think that the way that came to an end was actually really, really mature, because you didn't fight reality. Exactly. And what do I mean by that? There are people who could use that as a crutch to give up on something when it gets hard and say like, well, reality is it's probably not going to go. Versus there are people who then are constantly putting themselves in a place of opportunity and taking advantage of opportunity, where when something ends, yes, and we could talk about, I'd love to get your thoughts on that because we haven't talked about that at length, but like, yes, it's bittersweet because you were building something for a long time and you've decided like, okay, I'm gonna mark this a failure because I'm not going to continue it. But it's also because you are going into something that you found great success. Like you've landed, like in your case, you had landed on something and you're like, holy shit, like we're growing like a weed on multiple platforms. We have a nationally known brand at this point. We're making a fuck ton of money, and it requires it requires all my time. Yeah. And so you had to be like, well, what am I going to prioritize? And the fact is, this United idea, which, you know, I say legalized cheating, but that's literally what it was. So it was very, very smart. Like in the Internet of Things world, like you had it. And I was a huge fan of that. But like you had to sit there and go, there's A, B, and C hurdles I still have to get over to get it there. do I want to completely stop what I'm doing now, where I know I can build something huge and finance my own opportunities moving forward with anything I want to do? Or do I want to go after the thing that was my baby just because it's that?
Just because it's that.
That's a really hard decision.
It's so funny, dude, because like I realized very early on, education technology was not my passion. I fucking hated the sales cycles with schools were a bitch. You never knew when you were talking to the actual decision maker. It would take way too long. I didn't have any passion for education at all. Like it was just something that I thought of that literally I was very stubborn because in the beginning at 19 years old when I had the idea, people would tell me, hey, it's a great idea. And then other people would be like, it's not a good idea. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to show them. And every time I heard, hey, above all, it's a great experience, that would stab me. Like I
what do you mean great experience?
Like when somebody were pretty much telling you, hey, it's not going to work out, you're going to fail.
Oh,
but,
right.
But but at least you get the experience from it. Like, hey, when somebody, and just a little, if you're advising or talking to somebody that's starting something, don't say that. That's like the worst fucking thing to say to somebody. Hey, you're going to fail because 99% of the time you do, but you're going to learn a lot. And the reality is I did. And like, I'm okay with that now. Going through it, that was a slap in the face. So it was that just kind of like kept me going. It was like, fuck you, I'm going to show you that I can. And when I started to do it and the traction was there, I was more happy that I was just building something and less happy that I was building something in the space that I was in, right? So now I'm doing both. I'm building something. I'm happy that I'm building it, but I'm also happy what we're building, right? Like that's the difference. And
you didn't, a question though, because like you started the first 2.5 years were all dealing with the schools, which sucked, obviously. Like, no passion for dealing with colleges and administrations. No. But then you did move it to where you said, fuck it, we're going to lean into this whole, like, it's basically like legalized cheating rather than, like, trying to work with the schools. So then the sales cycle was different, right? You were dealing with individuals and, like, students.
Correct. It was B2C, but it was more, again, that was one thing we'd never nailed. And I think if I can give any advice to an entrepreneur right now, if you're looking to start, and I'm talking about like starting something that hasn't been, and I think that's a loose term, the word entrepreneur, because when you're in it,
so loose.
Because like, if you own a pizzeria, are you an entrepreneur? Some people say yes, some people say no. If you're innovating and you're creating a technology that has not been seen before, I think the biggest thing you can do is like identify the problem you're solving, go solve the problem, but race to finding revenue. And I'm not talking about making $1 million in the first year. Just prove that you can do it.
Yes.
Because even for your own sanity, you need to do that. And I was so against it because I was building a social platform and I wouldn't see revenue until 3 to 5 years. And I was so ignoring the reality of it. Like we said, this was not making any money. And I had a lot of users on it, but it wasn't going anywhere because I wasn't hyper-focused on that. I had all this traction. It's like me getting a bunch of views on TikTok. And if I'm going to create a business out of it, I have to start turning some revenue over. And that like was one thing I just ignored. So
different world too.
Different world, bro. Yeah, exactly. You know? Different like, eyeballs.
Think about your YouTube now too.
Yeah.
Like on YouTube, you make the long form content. You get to go beyond what you do on TikTok. And that's ad revenue.
For sure.
You know, so it's just like creating something great, continuing to create something great. So like it comes with it, like it does for me even, right? Yeah. So when you're, the context you're bringing up though is brilliant because you're talking about when you're starting something that is an idea of a business, like something that is going to be a product that people hold, touch, or feel, whatever it is.
Sure.
And the focus on just like the utopian world this is going to create is wonderful. But like you do have to demonstrate that it can actually, people will buy this as a service. Right. And like I really believe this, and I will believe this for forever. I think if Johnny Drinks had not blown up, that would have. Because I think you had moved away from a lot of the bullshit in the education space that you pointed out you didn't like at all. And I think if you had been able to stay B2C longer, which you didn't because something else you were doing was doing great. So this was a fail forward thing. Let's just call it what it is. Like this was not like, oh, I failed. This was like, I'm going to make a decision. This is better than that. And it was a good decision. But I'm saying like if you hadn't had Johnny Drinks, I think you would have found a way with that because you did identify a clear problem and something that even though like college students don't have a fuck ton of money, like those little payments of like $10 here, $20 there that you get a little rake on as a platform to provide this service and connect people around the whole country together and potentially on international levels. Like, I mean, dude, it's such a there's teachers out there shaking their heads at what it was, but it was about efficiency.
And there's some teachers that were on our side. Like some teachers identified that like the peer-to-peer assistance was so much better than a student struggling alone. And like that's the reality is this, like school should be a reflection of real life because you're only there for 4 years. You got to live life a lot longer.
Yep.
So you got to learn how to adapt and behave with other human beings. And if it's learning from somebody else and understanding how to work in groups, like that is as important, if not more important, than the information you're learning. So it's crazy, man, because like I remember vividly seeing my numbers of usage go up gave me so much more satisfaction than seeing my numbers of views go up now. And it would be very different, right? It would be 20,000 users versus a couple million views. The couple thousand users going up every day was like and honestly I think it was because I struggled so much that the reward was so sweet. This TikTok stuff, like in the beginning, it was hot, and I'm not saying I don't appreciate it now. It's just very different. You know what I'm saying? Like that was life or death almost. And I was, again, there were points where I was like straight up depressed. Like I was not happy with myself and what I was doing. And so those little things were like, you know what, this is so worth it, and I have to keep going. And again, like the leverage thing too. I was in a position where I was begging people to invest in me. I was begging people to use my app. Now it's the other way around, and it's a good feeling to be like,
you earn it.
I'm going to sit back and let you pitch me why I should use your product or why me and my dad should promote what you got going on. And here's my rate. And, you know, like, so it's such a, I'm sitting in the other chair, and I don't take that for granted, but it's so refreshing to be able to have that. You know,
you earn that respect through creating things.
For sure.
And when you have a platform, centralized platform, to be able to put it out on where you can win as the little guy and become the not little guy.
Yeah.
Like if you're able to do that, like, well, there you go. Now you're sitting at the other end of the table. And now, like, you know, you make the remark about the experience line. I totally understand what you're saying. But also, now that we're past that point, like, fuck yeah. Being in that world and seeing the bullshit you got to deal with like venture capital and stuff like that. God, dude. Now from your end, it's like, you know, you're a seasoned veteran with that shit.
It's
and you're gonna understand that, like, as someone who I know is gonna be an investor in startups and things like that.
I've invested in a couple,
like, yeah, and you already have. But I'm saying, like, in the future, like, that's gonna be a passion of yours. There's no doubt about it. Like, you've seen the other person in that seat when it doesn't work.
And you know what I also have done? I've seen what it does when you do. And like I remember vividly, bro, my first check was 10 grand, and it was Doug Muir was one of my best, and I guess mentor is the word. I was in like an accelerator program, and he was the guy running it. And off the bat, we just resonated. He was a wrestler. He saw a lot of himself in me, and he saw me go through, I think the best thing he did for me, it was a time where I lacked a lot of, not confidence in myself, but confidence in what I was doing. I had a lot of like imposter syndrome. So he let it be known that John, he has what it takes, and he would hype me up to anybody and everybody that would confront me or him about the idea and myself. So he gave me that confidence to keep moving forward. And it was a lot of time of struggling, and he's made buco money, like just a you know, whatever. And there was a point in time where I went to his office one day just for like advice, like talking, shooting the shit. And I remember he was like, how much you looking to raise? And I said this. And he's like, it's like, what's your minimum check size? I'm like, this. And he's like, all right, I'll write you a check. And like, it caught me so off guard because people, and you know it too, bro. A yes is never a yes until the money hits the account.
You're like, wait, what? I'm sorry,
like,
what?
I literally, bro, I swear to God, I was like, you just said yes? He's like, yeah, I'll write you a check. He's like,
sure?
I swear to, I almost convinced him not to do it. I was like, oh, like when? Like, what are we doing? He's like, you know what? He calls his wife in, like, who worked for him. He's like, come on, I want to take a picture. Like, it's your first check.
Oh my God.
I was literally like, bro, I cannot believe this is happening. He wrote a check that day. Like, I had money in my bank account 2 days after that. I was riding on such a high, and that is a feeling that I will never forget. And Doug, if you're listening, and I haven't talked to him in so long, I want you to know how appreciative I was of that moment. And I just want to be able to do that and make other young entrepreneurs feel the same way. Because
that's awesome.
He literally was like, yeah, 10 grand. Like, he was at a point in time where he was making great money. 10 grand really wasn't much to him. But for me, it was everything. It was everything. Yeah. And it wasn't even the dollar amount. It was just somebody believed in me. And what that did was it allowed for more confidence for the next conversation. And another guy, Mike Dominic, who has been with me since like day one of Stu United, was my next check-in. And that was like, holy shit, these people are believing in me. Like, they actually invested their money into what I'm doing. And there's so many other people out there that have done that for me. But those are just two examples of guys that I want to be able to provide that feeling to somebody else.
Do you get a lot of motivation from the people who didn't do that, though, too?
Motivation is not the right word. I remember vividly, I won't even say their names because fuck them.
Yeah.
People that would strong, and they probably know it. Like, if they see me now, they probably know how negative they were towards what I was doing. I remember that pretty well, and I only remember it because it was like, I'm stubborn and I do get defensive sometimes. So like, if you were really at my throat to be like, this isn't gonna work and this is why it's not gonna work, you should probably give up now. Like, I remember vividly people telling me, hey, you know, it's not too late to get it's not too late to get a job, but it's gonna be too late in a year. So you probably should do it now. You should probably quit and get a job, because when you're 24 and 25, nobody's gonna hire you. Like, give up. Like, they would literally say, hey, you should probably give up. And for me, it was like, they probably don't remember those conversations, but I do. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, motivation's probably not I don't know if that's the right word for it, but yeah, those definitely impacted me.
I understand what you're saying as far as like, you know, from my own lens and my own experiences, which are different than yours, but like, yeah, the people that believe in you early on, like, you were a guy who's already becoming established when you and I met. And you and I met when this thing had 30, 40 listeners, something like that. Literally, like when you were on here too. And you believed in this thing. And I choose to focus on that positive of those people who like had legitimacy or were in a position to make a judgment on things, or, you know, understood content and stuff like that, who not only believed in it, but then backed it up and have continued to be great support systems to me, which thank you very much for that, because that's you've been there every step of the way. But I also don't think it's a problem to remember when people miss. You know? So, like, my one thing is, some of those people that you talk about on your stories, they might be able to argue, and I hate this because it's such bullshit, but they might be able to argue, well, I was right.
I know, bro.
Because United didn't go.
Exactly.
And that's the one reason I was like, can you just like hold on to it? Because it can go. Someone will fucking run it and it can go, because they shouldn't have been right. It was a fucking great idea that had established, you know, you had everything established.
It was right fucking there.
It was right there. Yeah. But it's like, again, like, you made the right call. Yeah. It's just like, fuck those people if they sit there and they tell themselves that that's why they're vindicated in what they were doing. Because they missed.
Exactly.
They can see now. They can see what you're doing. They missed on the person.
Absolutely. And I'm not even talking about like, look, you got like family, right? Like, family's always going to be, they're saying it for a different reason. Like, my mom has always been like, hey, there are plenty of times when my mom was like, hey, you know, you could always get a job. Like, there's a job.
They're like, looking out for you.
Right. Yeah. That's different. My mom is one of my number one supporters, right? But there are people that are hating for the sake of hating, or because they just want to be right. And the thought process that like, oh, they were right about Stu United, it does get me a little bit, but it's also like, if I wasn't doing what I was doing now, it would hurt a lot more. If I quit Stu United and was like a 9-to-5 worker right now, I would be punching the air every day I woke up. Like, I cannot believe I gave up. I probably wouldn't have given up. I don't know what I would be doing right now. No. I don't know if I would be able to. I wouldn't be able to live with that. So
you only had to stop because of a time. Like, I remember these conversations. It was a time thing. Yeah. It was like, well, I'm spending all my time on something we're having massive success with. It's made it. Doing it. It's not like, oh, we're trying to make it. Like, we made it.
Right, and it's like reflective on like everything you do. If you're making content and half your content is one thing and half it's the other, and the one half is doing really well, double down on that shit. Like, why are you ever overcomplicating your path, you know?
It's a hard thing letting things go.
It is.
But like, you have to sometimes. Like, it's a part of life, and it's down to like friendships and relationships too. Like, when the signs are all saying you gotta move on, well,
you should probably fucking move on. You gotta meet new people. That's the one thing I realized too, is like, even having conversations like this is so inspiring for myself, because it allows me to take a step back. Like, I've never been more inspired to now go and create content, because I know how great of an opportunity that I have, and I want to just keep pushing the envelope, and I want to just keep moving forward. Where sometimes like, you get kind of stale. You're like, all right, another day, another video. Let's keep it pushing. But if you don't have these conversations, if you don't surround yourself with people that are doing something pretty cool, you'll never exceed what you thought you were going to. You're going to stay in the same kind of rat race that you've been in because you're with the same friends that you had since high school. And it's honestly, it's almost, it's not even anybody's fault. But when you grow up with somebody, and I forget who told me this, but like if you're with the person that you were with at 14 years old and you guys were fucking around drinking and doing whatever, it's hard for you now to see them in a new light. So when your friends try to become successful, it's sometimes, and it's a shame, but sometimes you try to keep them back because you want to keep them in the place where we're just friends growing up. We're still playing at the park. You got to keep your friends that are true to you because those are the best friends you're going to have. But you got to take a step back sometimes and go meet new people and surround yourself with people that are better than you.
Well, that's key. Like, there's people in this world who want to be surrounded by yes men, and there's people who want to be surrounded by people who they think could have yes men if they wanted them.
Do you know? You know Mitch, right?
Of course, Mitch is like we were business partners.
That's my guy. You introduced me to Mitch.
Yeah.
So
no, that was a coincidence.
Right, because
you knew Mitch from way back, and then someone else introduced us, and then I was like, "Wait, Mitch, this is your boy."
Yes, like, exactly, bro. So Mitch is an example of somebody that I always look to when I'm feeling a little too confident and I want to be humbled. I talk to Mitch.
Mitch is killing it, man.
Mitch, back in the day, it's funny because we both were at the same spot where he was kind of like trying to do his thing with the podcast, and I was trying to do my thing with the Stu United.
By the way, this is just for people listening who don't know. This is Mitch Laxamana.
Yeah,
he's the CEO of Metaverse HQ.
He's one of those. Yeah,
and he's been on this podcast twice, 16 and 78. Yeah.
Wow, you have good memory, bro.
I got that photographic memory,
great.
baby.
You're good for you, man. So Mitch, again, we first met. We were both like faking it till we made it type of thing. A lot of years go by. He starts doing his own thing. I start doing my own thing. I see him killing it online in the crypto NFT space. I reach back out. I'm like, what are you doing? I have to know. I don't care about the money he makes. I don't care about what he actually does. How he carries himself and the way he presents himself to other people, I've always emulated. And he's a couple years older than me, and I don't even think that's the reason why I emulate it. But every time I talk to him, I learn something. Just by his mannerisms, just by how he speaks to somebody else, just by how he listens. Right? Like, I literally will sit down with him, and I'm like, you know what? It is obvious why this guy is so successful and why he's able to achieve what he's achieved in life is because he's different. Like, he literally taught me, because I used to be, again, you go through these ebbs and flows, and the fame or whatever you want to call it kind of smacks you in the face. And it is hard to not get an ego trip sometimes. I would take every one of my phone calls. I would be a little bit, a couple minutes late. I would answer it, no video. They'd all be on video because I was too good. I'm like, yeah, this is what I do. These are my rates, and hey, see you later. And until I had to take calls with Mitch, Mitch would be 5 minutes early. He'd have his camera set up. He'd be dressed super nicely.
Always dressed to the nines,
that
baby.
Dude's got style.
That man's he's wasted. He's put a lot of money into fashion. That's one thing he spends on.
I'm hoping Zara sponsors him one day because he's a Zara fiend.
Yeah.
But that in itself, I will never forget it. We had to do a call together for something, for some brand. And he sat there, professional as hell, looked the part, made the other people feel special, and followed up when he did all the right things. And I said to him that day, I said, you know what? I will never take a new phone call not on video. If it's supposed to be a video call, I am there ready to go. I don't care if you have to then turn your camera on. I will have my camera on because that's how I'm going to present myself from now on. So
it's good that you recognize that yourself too.
Like, for me, I was like, who are you, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're too good to put your camera on. Like, come on now. So
that's a good don't lose that gene, man. It's a good gene.
I feel like I'm always, because I'm appreciative of what I have. And look, I got some swagger to me too. And there's some times where I feel it. There's other times where I got to be humbled. And it's like, you have to know that, you are not the shit. You're not where you need to be just yet. And that's okay because you're going to get there. But the only way you're going to get there is by being humble and weathering the storm type of thing. So a guy like Mitch, I just use him as an example, got to find people that when you tell them something that you're proud of, they humbly, like, literally 10x you. Like, and I'm not talking, like, financially, whatever. I've told him things. He's like, hey, man, that's awesome. And I'm like, oh, what'd you do? And it's, I'm like, you know what? I'm nowhere near where I need to be. So he is one of the examples of just somebody I strive to, emulate.
No, man, I'm so fucking proud of Mitch. He's, you know, we've been business partners on LLCs in the past, and the thing about Mitch is like he's always been able to be the life of the room in both looks and feel, right? Like,
he looks the part, bro.
Like he just looks the part, and he's got the vibe, right?
He's one of the only people that can wear sunglasses like inside, and you don't question it. Like if I had my sunglasses on,
I question it. I do question it.
If I came in here like this, you'd be like, "Yo, first of all, we're not starting until you take your fucking sunglasses off." But I will talk to Mitch. He'll have his nice shades on. I'm like, you know what, man? You look great.
I still bust his balls once in a while, but his fashion is impeccable. Like he's got brilliant. Like sometimes, like I've been in his house, I'll just like see his clothes laid out, and I just like look at him. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of thought.
Yeah, bro.
Lot of decision points going into that stuff.
Man.
But he, you know, he's been successful almost his whole career. After like he had one shitty job 1 year into his career, and he took control of the situation and said, no, we're not doing this. And he went and got an amazing job. Was so good at it. They never invented a position for him, but he took on like. He's an engineer by trade. Yeah. But, I mean, he's Mitch. Like, he's a sales guy and a personable guy. So, like, he took on both roles, making a fuck ton of money. And the thing about him is, like, Mitch is not a guy who is supposed to work for people. So, like, he was always good at it. He got along with everyone very well. Everyone loved him. But, like, he was always trying to do something else. And the years I was with him and around him where I was figuring my own shit out, you know, it's like he had to put so much energy into what he did, even during the day, even though he had it so like tactical, that, you know, when you're trying to build something on the side and then you're also trying to have a life a little bit too, what would happen is the burnout would happen every project. Like he'd have things where I'm like, oh no, this is good. And then it would stop because like couldn't deal with it. And so he got into the NFT stuff early. And saw, because he was aware of the space and he studied it from the ground floor shit. And like I took a look at what he was doing and I'm like, all right, let's see if he'll ride this one. And so like literally a year ago, it's July 4th, down the shore in Ocean City. He and I sat down because he was down. I know him and Mike obviously through my cousin Adam, who has been best friends with Mitch's brother Mike forever. So then we all became good friends. But like he was down the shore and we sat down and talked about this. And he said, listen, man, like I think I'm going to go all in on this. And, you know, after explaining the whole thing, and I was like, Mitch, I think you should do that. Yeah. And to his credit, we're now a year in. The whole crypto market right now is like in the shitter. And Mitch is sitting on a beach in Croatia handling business calls. Bro. Because Mitch ain't worried about shit. He is murdering it, and he's now the head of this whole that's the biggest trading company out there in the metaverse, you know, online, right? With Metaverse HQ, he worked his way from like getting in there towards the ground floor as like a key guy to now running the whole fucking thing. And it's a beautiful thing to watch because, by the way, he left his job. This is what he does now. He left it before he got any of this. He left his job last year and was like, no, you know what, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And I was so fucking happy to see that. And like there was a fan who commented on a fan I go back and forth with a bunch, cool guy, but he commented a joke on Mitch's episode he did with me a few months, like 6 months ago or whatever, where he's like, oh, the crypto market's crashing. This guy probably has $0 now. And I'm like, no, he's not missing any meals because you know what? There's a lot of shit people in the crypto space, but this guy knows what he's doing. And it's a beautiful thing to watch, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just curious again, and not even him specific because he'll be fine. I'm curious to know how a lot of these kids, and I say kids because a lot of them are young, are handling such a swing in, I guess, what they would consider their wealth. You know what I'm saying? Like their assets, a lot of them hold majority of their assets in crypto. Because at the time, it's like, how could you not? And I got caught up in it too. Like there was a point in time where I was like, screw investing in the market. I'm going to go dump it into ETH because like this is what's hot right now. I have the chance to double my money overnight. And you ride on this high. And you talk to an older guy once, and like they laugh at you because like you're gonna learn from experience what a downfall really feels like.
Learning from experience, right? There it is.
Yeah, learn from experience, man. I hate hearing that, bro. I hate when. I mean, my dad knows it too. My dad will say to me, I can't tell you how many times he's like, "You'll learn one day," and he won't even explain himself. He kind of just be like, he'll say, "When you're older, you'll get it," and I cannot stand hearing that. But the funniest part is, it's so true. Like every time he says that, without explaining himself, I look back at myself and I'm like, you know what? He was right. Like I learned from experience. And so just getting back to like these kids, how are you handling this right now? So
you're not.
Part of me is like, okay, are they still balling like they said they were? Are they still going out to these fancy restaurants? Or are they doing it to put up the facade? And I'm not bashing anybody. I'm actually curious. Are they doing it to put up the facade because they have to? They have to weather the storm. And if that takes emptying their bank account to do it.
Oh, you're saying like put up the Instagrams or where they are?
I don't know, bro. Like how? Because that was their image. Their image was, we're young, we're millionaires on paper, we could do what we want because ETH is so great right now, or crypto is so great right now. That's why you should invest in. And that type of lifestyle is so intriguing for other people that if you just stop, like, again, it's obvious that the value of this stuff has gone down pretty dramatically. If they stop doing what they were doing as far as like the extracurriculars, nobody's going to believe in this stuff. So like, I don't know. Part of me is like, are they doing it just to attract more people, or are they doing it because they still can?
It's always a problem when you have to attract people to do something based on how your lifestyle looks doing it.
Absolutely.
It's no different watching crypto bros than it is watching lifestyle influencers on Instagram in 2016 who 100%. Really aren't even hot. You know, the camera's
renting
fake.
Cars and shit, yeah.
You know, she's like actually like not that good looking, but
she's
got
about
this,
that, bro.
yeah, she's got this beautiful page. And then, you know, she travels to a few places and takes a few pictures with, you know, her Hydro Flask and calls it a day, right?
Exactly.
So I think it's all the same shit. That's a really interesting way of looking at it, though. Like thinking about, well, are they going to be upholding the lifestyle on socials? Listen, man, when downward markets happen in anything, it shakes out the cobwebs. It shakes out all the people who are full of shit.
Yeah.
And so they can try that if that's a thing. It very well may be. I hadn't thought of that. But as long as the market is down, it's not going to change the reality of people right now who are looking around like, wait a second, I thought I was getting rich overnight. You know, I've always said to people during that bull run, and you can run the tape, I had this on record a million times, you know, when the tech bubble crashed in 2000, 2001, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, all these companies were in that. They were all affected by it because the broader market, it's always going to affect you if you're a part of it. But like they were real. So when Pets.com died, Amazon lived because Amazon had a real business.
Exactly.
You know, their stock went like that for a while, but that's how it works. Right. So we are going to see people come out of this on the other side who are legit. What is very scary to me, though, is that it almost feels like I have a suspicion for the first time looking at this whole thing because crypto started to work its way in hardcore mainstream during the pandemic. Like, were you around it in 2017 when it was first coming up?
Crypto?
Yeah.
No, I ignored it. I was one of the dudes like, this is fake.
Right. So if that time it was 10% of people, this time it was 25% of people. And I'm making up numbers right there.
I was going to say probably more.
Yeah, I'm just giving you a small sampling. Those are totally made up numbers just to give an idea. It's a bigger population.
Correct. There you go.
Is the point. And so what I saw last time when it ended was my friend Sloan took me to some meetings in late 2018 in New York when shit was at the low of the low, right? And I was blown away by, no one even talked about the market at these meetings. These were brilliant builders. Mm-hmm. Like the human capital was insane. Mm. And I remember saying to him on a walk back to his office from one of the meetings, I was like, you can't bet against a space where things are this shitty right now, and every crypto was like a dirty word at that point. Yeah. And everyone like won't treat it that way. And the dudes you just listened to are some of the smartest people on planet Earth. There's a lot like them who have moved to the space and are building, and they don't give a fuck about the market because they know what the utility is here. You don't bet against that. And, you know, we're going to see if that's the same thing this time. Every bear market shows you who the true people are. But the thing about this one is that blowing up during the pandemic, it created, you know, the laws of capitalism came into play. And so everyone wanted in. The 15-year-olds wanted to buy it. The 35-year-olds wanted to buy it. Some of the 55-year-olds wanted to buy it. And so all these platforms started vying for business, all these different crypto exchanges. So when you're vying for business, what do you have to do? You have to give access to all the things because someone in your competition pool is going to do it. So if you don't, you're fucked. Yeah. Now what do we got? And I have to look at this one. This just happened like 2 days ago. I have to look at the full explanation. But like Voyager, apparently is filing for bankruptcy.
No shit.
This came out a couple days ago. I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago, whatever it was. Very recent. And my understanding, without looking at it, based on a couple of things I heard, was that it had to do with the fact that they bought, or they held a bunch of assets on leverage.
Oh no!
Across all these shitty coins. You know why? Because if they didn't offer trading on those coins, someone else was gonna.
Right. They got
so
nervous.
For the first time now, I'm wondering, are there disinterested parties or interested parties who are disinterested in the rise of crypto, who have made sure to maneuver things, including creating projects through fronts, to get them mainstream during a boom when everyone's home during the pandemic, so that when shit crashes, everyone has exposure and they can crush a lot of the space?
You're a big thinker. That's a well thought out plan.
I don't know, man.
Or theory, I should say.
It is a theory. That's all it is. I have no evidence of that.
But that's a well thought out theory. It takes a different type of mind to think like that. But that's like, again, man, you never really know. And I think the biggest problem is that a lot of these kids are young, and like you said, it's gonna weed out the weak. Weak or not, like these dudes can't afford to keep doing this sort of stuff, and they get very trigger happy, and then they get very afraid, and they move on to the next fun thing they could do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, do you believe in it?
In crypto? I mean, like it's
a broad question.
I forget who I was listening to, a very like accredited investor, and he's like, "Look, the reality is us leveraging technology as far as like blockchain and a cryptocurrency is almost inevitable. We're going to.
Yes.
To be able to pick which one today is almost impossible. It's like the example you gave in the 2000s. And again, we weren't around, or I was 5 years old at this time.
Yeah, I studied it later.
But we learned from people that have talked about it. And what we hear is like you said, use the examples of like Apple and Amazon that were around at the time. There were also thousands of other companies that were around at the time that are no longer around.
Yes.
You know, so picking the Apple, picking the Apple, picking the Amazon today is nearly impossible. And I think that's why people like my dad's age and my dad himself are very gun shy when it comes to crypto, because they got burnt in the 2000s when they were sold that dream that we're going to be millionaires overnight, and then it comes crashing and burning. So I talked to my dad about it all the time, and my dad's in a different spot because he's on the 4th lap. You know what I'm saying? He's 56 years old. He's made his wealth, and he's good. He doesn't have to take these risks anymore.
Did you call that the 4th lap?
Yeah, like, you know, he's almost done. He's great, you know.
You see that, Dad? You're almost dead.
You're almost done, man. Get it up. But it's funny because now, and this is one thing that I've always thought about, he was, and when I say 4th lap, I mean like close to retirement, you know, paying off his mortgage.
I got you. I see what you're saying.
But we're creating a whole new life for him at 56 years old, and I want to be able to show him, with him, a life that he's never experienced, right? So like these are all things that are super fun and exciting for us, but I digress. That's what I think is so scary for the people that have been through it. Is like they don't want to get burnt again, and the odds are they are going to get burnt again. It's going to take a very intelligent and knowledgeable investor to pick the one, and you may still not even pick the one.
The best part about getting burnt is that you learn a lesson.
Exactly.
The worst part about getting burnt is you learn the lesson too hard.
If you learn the lesson too hard.
Right. Exactly. And I think about this a lot because there are things you have to learn lessons from, but what you don't want to do is then close your mind to things that end up, in hindsight, looking inevitable because you're so scarred from that past. And like, I look at those times as to figure out, okay, what are the patterns that never change? What are the human being patterns that never change? Greed, you know, pumping and dumping in markets and shit like that. Yeah. Like stuff like that. Yeah, that never changes. But what makes sense here? You know, what is something that we should be thinking about? And then I'll pick up, and I get to do this through doing a job like this. I'll pick up on little things. I'll pick up on having the CIA spy in here, making a joke that like cryptocurrencies are dying right now, man. But out of the same mouth, he'll also say, I think he said it on here and he said it in other places, that blockchain technology is actually the single most important piece, or it's one of the single most important pieces of technology that governments are working on and that are important to basically ruling like the future of the world. Right. So, well, which one is it, right? The difference is like governments, and I don't want to put words in his mouth on where he stands exactly. He's talking about it from the government lens, but like, you know, governments see what this was. So would they have like some of that stake, like in that theory that I laid out? Like, would there be something for them to say, okay, we are very worried about a thing like Bitcoin, like the top of the chain, the one that's not controlled by humans, you know, that I think is more gold than actual dollars, right? In a parallel universe. We're very concerned about that because we can't control it or legislate it enough, at least. So we want to be able to kill the brand of that entire space so that we can then force feed people CBDCs or something like that. Like this is stuff we have to think about because guys like your dad who are righteously scarred by shitty situations. Your dad also has, I mean, his background's in mortgages and stuff. And he was one of the guys who had success and survived '08. Shout out to him. Yeah. You know, as a successful guy through that. He's seen murders in front of him.
I tell you, man.
You know?
He's gone through, and again, that's where he's gone through the highs and he's gone through the lows. Like he's told me there have been points of time where like he didn't know if he had to quit his job and get a new one. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a scary thought, especially when you were used to a life and now you have a family and now you have to try to find something new. Like that's crazy. And that's a stress that like we as, you know, later 20s will never even know until we go through it.
Right.
You know
and
what I'm
with
saying?
families and everything.
That's nuts, bro.
It's a bunch of and age, everything, you know. So I don't ever want to write that off because there's a lot he said that's correct, by the way. But what you don't want to do, like in a utopian world, and we all tend to lean one way or the other with this, but like if you are looking to search the web privately and not have all these websites track you when you leave, check out my friends over at Privado VPN. Privado is the VPN company that gives you full privacy while losing you no speed, and it allows you to use the VPN on up to 10 different devices at a time. It's awesome. So if you use the link in my description, you will go to my landing page with the site, and you will see a plan there for $4.99 a month. It's the same one I use. Check it out. You're going to love it. You want to be in the middle. Like everything else, where it's like, okay, let's recognize the patterns that are as old as time, tried and true, over and over again. There's no such thing as a new normal. Human beings are human beings and they're flawed. And let's find the things that also point to a better way to do something and figure out how that's going to happen. Maybe we can't time it. Maybe we can't say exactly when or even which one in this kind of case, but we can say that space, that thing, that idea, we want to invest in that because, yeah, it's going to have its downturns. I'm talking about crypto specifically now, but like, there's going to be winners coming out of that.
Right.
And then the wisdom of like your dad and his generation saying you're not going to be able to pick which one. They might be right about that.
Yeah.
Like that's not something to ignore when they say that.
I mean, honestly, I think that at the end of the day, to like, because again, I don't like talking about things I can't or like I don't have enough knowledge about. So crypto for me, very high level. I was super intrigued by it. I did invest in some ETH and I did get involved with some NFT projects and had a lot of fun with it. But that was the extent of my knowledge, right? So I'm not going to come on here and say I'm an expert. And I think that's my point is like, if you have something going on for yourself that's really good, and for me, it's content creation, it's building a brand online. Don't get so obsessed and have that FOMO that, oh shit, I should go do something. I should go do something else. Because what that'll do is it's taking away, and I noticed this too, when I was involved with Mitch and I was doing a lot of like NFT project research and getting involved. It was so much fun, dude. It really was. I was sacrificed. I'm a big opportunity cost guy. Yeah. Which results in me being a big FOMO guy, and that's not good, but whatever. I noticed that I was slacking on my content. Yep. And at the end of the day, I'm like, look, this is my business. This is my life. Stop getting so distracted by what could be and go focus on what is. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people do that. A lot of people, whether they're working a 9 to 5 or they started their own brand online, their head is all over the place.
Yes.
Be like a horse, man. Put the fucking blinders on and just go do what you have to do.
You had the same approach to that I did. It's kind of funny. We've never talked about that, but you and I were the same thing because we had access to like Mitch's little group of like a few people where he's just, you know, he's in there all day.
How could you not get obsessed with that though?
Right. But like, you know, when I did, it was for a week and it was when I had COVID. And when I had COVID, I had it bad in November. I couldn't, like editing, my eyes couldn't do that with the screen. So it was the only time since I started this podcast where I literally couldn't work. I finished my episode, which is like very easy for me to edit. I can like kind of do it blind. But like I did nothing else.
That's interesting.
And so I was sitting there and like he had me in the group and I was paying attention and I was like in on it for a few days. And then the minute I started working again, boop, I put it to the side because I do know this, and this is not about me. This is about pretty much anyone who's not literally like Elon Musk. If you're not in something and your heart and soul is not in it and you are not paying attention and treating it like you know, a student of the game, you're gonna lose money.
1000%, bro. Like, and you don't realize it too.
Yeah.
You don't realize how important it is just to be in it. Like, just be mentally in whatever you're doing. I don't care if you have to like, and sometimes I'll do it. Like, I'll put my phone away and I'll put I'm a big whiteboard guy, and my family makes fun of me because it's like literally like a big whiteboard, and it's like little notes, like things I have to do, like brands I have to work with, and it's like a list of 15 people. Like, go put it in your fucking phone. But I don't. I like to see it very big in front of me. If I'm not staring at that, I'm not over obsessive about content creation, I lose sight and I get distracted. And like, that is the worst thing you can do as a content creator or when you're trying to build a brand online. It's just you get super distracted. And like, that's what happens with stuff like that, is like you get super obsessive. And I noticed when I wasn't with my dad or I couldn't make that's one of the demises of like our brand, is that we're not together. It's not the same, you know what I'm saying? So when I'm on vacation or he's on vacation, it's hard for us to create content.
Yeah.
It's also hard for us to schedule, because I don't have to worry about just my schedule. I got to worry about his, and I don't do a great job with that. He gets frustrated. So it's little stuff like that. And that was the one time, like you said, my example was like I wasn't with him, and it was a solid week where I was hyper obsessive about these NFT projects. And it was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, go back to what you're doing, because that's double down on what you're doing really well, you know?
Everyone's susceptible to shiny ball syndrome.
It really fucking is.
There's so much money. You're watching. Mitch made all this money because he was working.
Dude, and I finally caught like a glimpse of it, and I flipped one for like whatever it was, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be rich overnight from flipping dumb JPEGs, just like Mitch. Just stick to what you got.
It's such a craze. I mean, I just hope with NFTs specifically, I hope that all the bullshit didn't crush its name forever.
Taint it, yeah.
Because NFTs can have such a critical, I mean, I don't think it will, because it is an infrastructure thing. They can have such a critical access point to like a healthy digital world, which who knows? I mean, there's a lot of ways that can go bad and be very unhealthy, and I hope that doesn't happen. Definitely. But like, the applications are there, and I do think it'll be all right. But you just had so many people come in, and it's like, all right, utility, what is it? Like, what is the actual utility of this? And it, you know, that's what happens when anything's a craze. Like, oh, they build a community, so we're gonna build one too. And like, I've seen so many people get caught up in it, and I'm like, you know, I'm not trying to be a cynic, but like, what are you adding? It's a question most of these projects didn't ask themselves. And I'm also like, you know, I had a front row seat to Smiles from day one.
That's true.
I had a front row seat to like what it's supposed to look like, as far as like launching the project itself, right? Like,
so happy to see that.
Like, Wahid is an unbelievable artist who had collaborations with Supreme, Complex. He was doing Pooh Shiesty's album covers. He's 21 years old. He's got the story. His art is incredible. So it's like this was a true artist project, and they were able to build it because they could integrate that character across all different types of things potentially. So like, I saw a real utility project. And then everything else I'd look at, I'm like, well, what are... They
were very real about what they were doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Gio was, and you know that, he was a beast too. Like, that dude, I always give credit to people that grind without an immediate result. You know what I'm saying? Like, Gio, from the jump, was not seeing a payday, was not seeing any resemblance of success. It just kept fucking going. And then they finally hit, and they launched that project, and it skyrocketed. And now, I haven't caught up with them in a while, but they should still be doing pretty well. But there was a time where they were crushing it. Yeah,
look, I mean, they've already done the job at this point. We'll see what they want to do with the company.
Shout out Gio, man.
Shout out Gio. The holders, the holders are all happy. Everyone's made money, so like, they've done what they got to do, and you know, we'll see if they go forward as is or if they change something up. I don't really know, but like, they did it right. You know what I mean? Like, they're sitting here right now and they got nothing to worry about. And their community. I was just at their event in New York 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. It was amazing. Bro.
Was it?
It was amazing. And Miles Matthews, who's on this podcast, threw it. He did a great job as always. Shout out Miles. But you know, like, you saw the whole community come in, and like, it's real. It's not just a bunch of people there who were like holders. Like, they're from all over the place, all different. I saw every background known to man in there. And
really?
Like, yeah, it was like a refreshing place to be. Like, it was people overuse the word community in this space, but like
it
actually felt that way.
That's awesome. That's yeah, and that's partly due to like who's running the show. Like, you know what I'm saying? Gio is that dude. When you meet him in person, he's very wholesome, he's very welcoming, and like that's how you got to be at these events, man. So again, I love watching people succeed that kind of deserve it. He's definitely one of them. I do bust his balls for being a very typical Southwest Jersey dude. Like, just the way he talks.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. The way he talks, bro. And you too, but you a little bit. He is like the pinnacle. I sent him TikToks. There's one dude that does like the impersonations, like saying hoagie. Like he fits that.
I don't have that accent.
Gio has it to a T, bro. And I always bust his balls.
He's like, yo, bro, I need a hoagie.
Bro, he's a big Wawa guy. Yeah. He's the boy.
I don't know what the deal is with that accent, but there's an interesting one.
It's like that here. Philly, South Jersey fucking vibe.
Yeah, you go from Delco across Philly and through to South Jersey, and you get some interesting. You'll land on some interesting use of vowels.
100%, bro.
You won't find in other places. But you know what, though? With Gio, people also didn't see the 5-6 years before that.
Really?
They didn't see all the building and all the almost, but not quite.
So I met Gio. We're just gassing people up today.
Yeah.
I met Gio when I was back in, this is like full circle, when I was pitching United to Rowan. I think I was 20 again. He was a little bit older than me, and he was pitching his idea for... what was the sports app?
I forget what it was called.
Oh, man. It was like a recruiting platform.
Yeah.
And I remember watching because he went before me. And he killed his pitch. And I was like, damn, that dude, he's got it. That was at a time, again, I struggled a lot with this imposter syndrome. Like, did I really fit this persona that I was trying to portray? And he did. And I was like, damn, if he doesn't get an investment, then nobody will. Because he nailed it. And since that day, I really just like inspired to be like that type of dude on stage and off stage. And then since then, like we just kind of kept casual, like with each other. I knew friends of friends. And again, like you said, watching him grow from that to what he's doing now, it's amazing to see. And it does take a lot of failure to get to where you are. And I know if you're going through it, you hate to hear it, but it's kind of reality sometimes. You got to learn how to fail, to adjust their mindset and really learn how to kind of handle adversity a little bit.
It is true, man. And even when you're intra-project.
Yeah, 1,000%.
In something that's going to be successful or it gets successful, like you have there's plenty of low moments. There's plenty of times where it's like, shit, like what are we doing here? Like, is this going to end it? I mean, you've heard some of my low moments. You're one of the guys I call once in a while when it's like, fuck. And they don't really, I mean, I haven't made that call in a long time now.
You haven't. You've been doing well, bro.
Now, I had low points in April and May. Like a lot of bad shit happened. And like, it was kind of like, been there, done that. You know, I'm going to get to work. I'm going to do my thing and then put out my shit.
But how important is that to have somebody like you and I to be able to, even if it's literally just to complain? Like I can't even respond because I can't control the algorithm. But the fact that you had me to just bounce that complaint and vent to somebody. So like if you're doing something as far as like, again, entrepreneurship, content creation, things are going to get very, very hard. Find somebody to confide in. If it's just a complaint, just to hear them say, I understand and your complaints are valid. Keep it moving because you're going to, like you said, now we deal with like things that are a little bit, like I guess adversity.
Right.
We take it on the chin, we keep moving. But in the beginning, it's very hard to deal with. So you need that person just to talk to.
Having an ear of someone who understands is key, for sure. Even if they don't do the same thing you do.
Exactly.
But, I mean, when you don't, that's not the be all end all though. Too, you have to like, once I'm off the phone with you, like I have to re-understand my reality and whatever because at the end of the day, like I'm the one that's got to dig out.
It is what it is. Right? I can't dig. Yeah, I can't dig you out. You're not going to dig me out. But like you said, you brought up a good point. It's not necessarily that you're in my niche or in my space. It's that you understand a little bit of what I'm talking about, right? Talking to your mom, talking to your family, they may try to get it. They just probably will never.
Right.
So talking to you, when I say, hey, this is what's bothering me today, you're like, dude, I totally get that. And you don't even have to explain yourself. I just understand that you do. All you have to do is allow me to get back to what I have to do best type of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's like, look, you have to go, if you want respect, like you do have to go take it and I don't care what you're doing. Like, content's one thing, like, okay, but like if you're building a business, you know, you have to get product into people's hands. You have to go earn the right for people to be like, God damn it, that's what I buy because they're great. Right? That does not happen in a day. It doesn't, you know, it's not like the first time someone uses something, unless it's like an iPhone or something like that,
exactly.
or like an established place. That doesn't mean it's going to spread like wildfire right away. You have to build over time. You have to build your super buyers, your early adopters, and then you have to branch that out over. It requires hitting people over and over. I'm sure you see this, by the way, like with your content, where people will subscribe to your channel and they'll comment like, "Hey, been seeing these shorts or been seeing these TikToks for a long time. First time coming over to watch the full thing. This is great. Happy subscriber."
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's when you know, like, oh.
Bro,
right.
people love giving, like look, sift through the shitty comments because there's plenty of them.
It's 90% of them.
I get so many where it's like, fuck the son. We're here for the, we're here for the dad. And I'm like, all right, that's fair. Like, I take it on the chin. And honestly, my dad.
I see that a lot less, though, now.
Well, because like, look, and I get angry when somebody like talks shit about my dad or about my sisters.
Yeah.
Because like, that's my family, but whatever. I think now, because I'm in such a confident spot, I take it more as feedback. If you tell me your content sucks because what you just did,
right?
Okay, I can learn from that. Maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. Maybe I shouldn't say these things. Because like, look, I know who I am as a person. I don't want you painting this picture of who I am based on the 30 seconds of content. So if you picture me as this asshole, spoiled, whatever it may be, maybe I should reword what I said, or maybe I shouldn't talk to my dad like that. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe I should tell my dad, hey, don't say this, say that instead. Like, there's things you should pick up on.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't think I like the negative feedback only because it's an opportunity to learn. But yeah, some people just can't handle it. And I think, and again, like it's a good feeling for you and I to be in a spot where younger, older, I don't care, people that are just starting out can come to us and confide and be like, hey, I'm going through this. Have you been through this? And what can I do to help?
Yeah. And like the interpersonal but non-personal stuff in this kind of space, like the best example is like comments and stuff. People don't handle that well.
Dude.
Now, I will say this. I live for that shit. Go look at every viral video I've ever done. The comments are 95% negative, and I'll be in there with like hearts or like I love you or like wow, you're amazing.
But you create controversial content. Like, that's the difference. You're kind of like, you're waiting for it.
I guess, but like I will say this, for the first time ever, like the only times I've ever been aggressive on comments are when I see someone, there's actually one that would happen once a month usually, where someone would comment on a post and it would get a little traction where they'd say, I hate scripted podcasts. And I would come in there, I mean, you know what we do here. Yeah. I'd come in there hardcore and be like, go look at every fucking camera angle. You won't find a goddamn script in there.
You think we scripted 3 hours, bro?
There's fucking 300 hours of content. And I've converted, like I'm very aggressive. Like I'll come after your whole family on that.
But that's your personality, bro. You know what I'm saying? You own that. That's the difference.
And that's fine because that's like one type of comment. And then I've actually converted some people into listeners because it's like, oh shit, I just commented that on the side, but I went and looked. You're right. And I'm like, okay, well think about where you're going to comment. Yeah. But for the first time a few weeks ago, when I posted a couple videos that were doing really well, I even had, it was a Bustamante, the CIA spy, who laid out a couple different things about like nuclear stuff that is not common knowledge. Yeah. I even had it sourced, backed up in the pinned comment. And people would comment that this is a lie, fuck you, this piece of shit channel. And I would come back, read the sources. They'd be like, fuck you, go die. and I literally, like one day I went down to work out and 3 hours later, I was like, oh my God, I haven't started working out yet. Cause I'm like coming back at him like this. And I'm like, this is what all these people do. And I even had a fan comment like on another post, like, dude, you're going to go crazy. Like if you're doing this. And I'm like, totally, bro. You're right. Like and now they kept commenting it and the video, you know, kept going to like 15, 16 million. I'm like, fuck you. I don't care. Like I have 1.5 million likes on this. You can go fuck yourself.
So that was like that was your standout comment.
That was my first moment where I'm like, oh my God, this is how creators treat all these comments they ever get.
Isn't it the same?
I'm like, I would have died a year ago if I treated my comments like this.
You can't, bro. You got to take it on the chin and you got to also realize like, and what I try to do in the beginning, it's very tough. picture the person who's commenting as like just some fucking either low life 4-year-old living at home, or like, or what's also helpful is like some 12-year-old that has no clue what they're even talking about, and they're trying to comment on how shitty the video is. Like we said, like for you, it's when somebody comes at your integrity of like this is scripted. For me, it's when somebody comes at like my family. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I've never replied to comments, and if I do, it's like, hey man, it's like you should probably stay off of social media today. Like you're having a bad day. Like just relax, because that's probably what's like. Again, that's probably what's going on. That dude is probably super upset about something that happened, and he's very jealous or angry, and he had to get it out. So like for me, you know what? I'll take the higher road. I'll say, have a good day. Just take a nap or something. The one thing that really upset me was there was a post we did for a CBD company. My dad, again, we don't promote anything we don't actually use or condone. My dad does not take CBD, so he didn't want to be the person in the video taking the CBD. I said, that's fine. My sister has epilepsy, avid weed proponent, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Doesn't actually like CBD, but that's okay. She'll try it once in a while. So she was the one in the video she walked in on him making a drink. She added the CBD in, right? So it was her drink. And somebody like commented about like how this is an ad, whatever. And somebody commented else like, she's just acting, you know, she doesn't actually use the product. She's full of shit. She's like a drama queen, spoiled girl, whatever. Like really like went in on her. And like for me, that finally got to my, and I wrote out this crazy comment. And I was like, what am I gonna fight this dude through camera?
You deleted it.
Also, I deleted it, but then I said, you know what? No. Like, you gotta be put in your place sometimes. And I said, Victoria has epilepsy. She uses it as medicine. Please think before you speak. Like and I left it at that. And I hope that that person read that comment and said, you know what? I probably should think before I speak, because I realize that people on the other side of this phone are human beings, and they have real life problems, and they're not just this figment of imagination or characters online. So like, there is no reason to comment things nasty on people's feeds or posts, and you and I wouldn't do it. People that are very problematic will, but they also have to realize you probably shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know about you, I've never had it happen in person. Nobody's ever like come up to us and be like, fuck that dude.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. And like, that could happen eventually, but
I'd rather that. I would rather
that. It would
that.
be, honestly, I'd be like, you know what? I actually respect that.
Yeah, hell yeah. If you say fuck you and your dad, I'm like,
you know what? Good for you. Thank you for, like, I see your face. Man. Good for you. Because that's the thing. Like, these people, that's why I live for it. Like, I piss these people off so much because I enjoy it. Like, you will see some posts where they're like, literally, go kill yourself. And I'm like, I will.
Thank you.
Like, it's just like, and they get so, like, they have to keep replying. And like, sometimes I'll keep playing along with that. And then like, they'll be doing it so much. I'm like, no, like, they need to have the last word in silence. Like, just let them have it. You know what I mean? But like, you got to remember, like, people are wired as human beings. We are wired to the negativity because we are wired to have to instinctually survive. So instinctually surviving doesn't mean the sun came up today, everything's beautiful, the air smells amazing. It's like, oh my god, there's a bear over there who's gonna fucking maul me to death.
Right.
That's instinctual survival. So like, that is beat into us as like the animal that we are. And so when we go to do these things, you know how easy it is to go piece of cake, right? You're a nobody. Nobody cares. You're behind some fucking fake name on some social media platform. It's the most unnatural thing ever. But like, once I had that in my head before I made content, this shit never bothered me.
Exactly.
It happened to be like, now I know my trigger is when I provide sourcing and people still comment calling it a lie.
But now you know.
Now I know. And I've tested it, because now that I stopped commenting on those, other than like sometimes I would just reply like, please see pinned comment.
Right.
Boom, that's it, right? Now I know. I think I stopped when it was at like 6 million views. There's been another 6,000 comments to say the same thing, and I haven't cared once.
How could
so
you?
It's like, now it's like, Julian, remember, that's your trigger point. So in the future, when someone does that, if you have the sources right there, they can suck your fucking dick and die. Like, that's just what it is.
Right.
It's what it is.
Right. And again, you're in a different spot than I am, because your content is by nature controversial. So
which is ridiculous, by the way.
It is ridiculous, but it is what it is. Like, people are going to come at your content a little bit more than mine. So you deal with it, and it's okay for you to combat, because a conversation is a conversation. You're not being an asshole back. You're having that argument because it's healthy to do. You're taking their opinions and you have your opinions. For us, you're being an asshole. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to talk about how pretentious my dad is because he taps the ring on his glass, like, why do you care so much to comment on the video? You know what I'm saying? Keep it if you don't like our content, stop commenting on it. Keep it moving. You're harming yourself. But I say it all the time when people are like, I fucking hate this content. Why do I keep seeing it? I'm like, probably because you keep commenting on every one of our videos. Like, don't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Eventually they won't.
Exactly.
And that's
keep
fine.
moving.
Because you're not going to get them. Like, sometimes you convert somebody like that. Like I said, like, there's some weird ones. But, like, if they're a hater, like, let them hate.
Let them hate, bro. Yeah.
Mitch said it on this podcast in episode 16. He's like, if people are ready to hate it, people are ready to love it, too. And that is how point, is I think about that so much. He was so right about that.
Bro, I give the example, two people. Jake Paul and Andrew Tate a while ago. And now Andrew Tate's gone through a lot of shit, so I don't, condone it before. But here's the reality. I saw 30 seconds of Andrew Tate talk. That first clip gave me such a bad taste in my mouth, and I said, I hate this dude. This dude is pretentious. He hates women. He thinks he's the, whatever. And then I started really listening to like what he had to say. And some of the content is actually like pretty reasonable and like makes a lot of sense. And I knew he's actually doing it to get the clickbaity stuff out there, right? So he's saying these outrageous things.
Like what?
He's the big, he talks about how like it's by nature men should be dating multiple women and that women shouldn't be single. Women should be, catered to the men. And that was the first video that I saw was like, that was that clip. And I think I commented. And again, I'm now being the hater. I wrote, this dude sucks. And I wrote, and I had comments that were like, you just don't understand how the rest of the world works. You're an American. And I was like, that's weird. And then I started watching more of his content. And a lot of it was like, biologically, why it made sense that women should be doing one thing and men should be doing another. And not that I agree or disagree. It was kind of just like, okay, he has a valid point to what he's saying. And he's not as big of an asshole as he tried to appear as. He's just being, like we said before, that clickbaity stuff. But because he's so controversial, I don't even want to talk about it because you could like really get, because he's done some like fucked up stupid shit. Jake Paul's a better example. Jake Paul was just that kid that created unreal viral content since he was 14 years old. That dude has been grinding. Him and his brother have been grinding since Vine days. People take away a lot of his credibility, and they probably shouldn't. I used to hate him. He wasn't a boxer, didn't know what he was doing. He was an asshole kid. Now,
kid can fight.
First of all, he can fight, but he also can create really good content. I respect him for both. I respect him as a fighter. I respect him as a YouTuber. I had a chance to meet him one time. He was pretty cool. So, like, for me...
Really? Where?
It was down in Miami. It was actually after his fight against, not Robinson. I forget who it was. But he, like, knocked the dude out. And I was like...
Woodley?
No. It was way before that. It was like...
The fat guy?
Pre-COVID.
Oh, it was pre-COVID.
Yeah. Not Askren. Not Woodley. Not Rob.
He didn't have a fight pre-COVID.
No, he did. Pre-Robinson, he had a fight. I forget who it was. But then again, he started out fighting like some nobodies, right? So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, for me, I was like, all right. But I really warmed up to him because I figured out who he really was. And I think it takes a lot of time to like really understand who these creators are. So like you got to give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes.
100%. And like you can also like not like somebody, but have respect for certain things about what they do.
That's exactly how I felt about Andrew Tate. I was like, all right, I respected what you said. Maybe I don't agree with everything you're saying. Maybe like 90% of what you're saying. But that one clip made a little bit of sense.
No, I definitely like I pay attention to Jake and what he does because Jake understands content very well. He understands how to win attention unbelievably well.
He's the best.
He's got ice in his veins as far as
he does.
He is a stoic in a space that doesn't reward that usually. It's very interesting. But like I'm more of an active fan of Logan because I've seen. I think it had to do with like when I really started paying attention to him, which was during like his low point with the whole Japanese forest thing. But like people don't give, in my opinion, the credit that's deserved on like him and Jake, for example, and there's other people too. But like, we look at him as, oh, this 27-year-old and 25-year-old and whatever. They've been grinding since they were 14, bro. Like they were working They were like, go back and watch their content and how early they were making it. The kid up the road I mentioned earlier, Lance 210. This motherfucker was making content when he was 13 years old, 12 years old.
When did you start doing this?
I started doing this when I was fucking 26.
And you feel like, and this is about 2 years?
Yeah.
And it feels like your whole life.
So it feels like forever.
Exactly.
But like these guys were doing it early. They were like, we think of them as young, but that's just because they started so, like they were adults in the fact of work.
Exactly.
8 years, 9 years
think about
before
where you're
anyone
going to be
else.
in 10 years. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right. So like I have so much respect for that, and I respect people who also constantly find ways to invent new ways to be out publicly, like who they are. And like, I mean, shit, dude, look at Logan. A lot of people think of him as like a podcaster now.
Right.
Right? Like, that's
crazy?
fucking crazy. And he started the podcast after that whole controversy.
Yeah.
As like a way to be like, okay, well, let's put ourselves out there. Let's at least have conversations. Let's
He's a
show
cool
people.
dude.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, people in this world, they have such a hater heart for stuff. I just don't, whatever that gene is, I don't have it. You know, if someone is a total dickbag and just not a good person, okay, fine. But like, I'm not going to go in the comments section on it.
Can you imagine?
Ugh.
Wasting your time to be like, I hate this guy.
No, I don't think I've ever sent one of
you
those.
also get it. Like, you know what I'm saying? You get that there's another human. I don't care. Logan Paul Joe Rogan has read his comments. They know what people are saying. You're not talking to a robot. You're talking to a human being. Right. So like, why do you feel the need to try to ruin somebody's day? Because you get it too. It could fuck up your whole day. One bad comment will literally, maybe not for us because we've been through it, but there are people, and I don't mean to be like sexist, but like women especially, will take one comment and will fuck up their entire day. You may not make content that night because you're thinking about what somebody else said. Why are you doing that to somebody?
Have you ever read through like female comment sections?
Dude, I know a fitness influencer in the women's space, and she used to like tell me like, oh my god, people are so mean, and I didn't believe it until I read the comments, and I'm like, why are grown men commenting on a picture of a girl who's actively, first of all, looks great in pictures, that she's not doing something right, or she's photoshopped, or she's not all that? Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to like flirt with them in a weird way? Like, I just don't understand their thought process behind that.
That's one I really don't get. Like, the last person I'm gonna comment on is a female's post. Dude, like and I already won't comment on a male's post, but like, holy shit, man.
A girl, think about it like this, bro. We're men. The gym is a very male-dominated space. It's been dominated by men for years.
Less now, but yes.
But that's my point. For a girl to be able to have the confidence to get into the gym, just to get in there, takes so much. Now you're gonna go and bash her for trying to do something that is already hard from the jump. Like, you're an asshole.
I read through some of the megastars comments.
It's terrible, bro.
Dude, like, I'm talking the mega stars. Right. And I'm like, they know this is in there if they want to go looking for it. And it's not 2 comments.
It's thousands.
Yeah. And I'm just like, because it has to do with like, and I'm sorry, it just is what it is. But like, guys, we can roll out of bed and look like an asshole, and we're not going to get in trouble for it, right? Like, women, like, they got to put in a fuck ton of effort. Like, I respect that so much, because I'm like, holy shit, like, that's like 2 hours out of your day. That's nuts. Like, that is a lot of like the presentation, like, just as a biological fact, when you're on social these days, it's so shallow that like that's a part of it. And so when you have everyone attacking every little thing about that, I mean, maybe the girls who are married and whatever have more security because they're like, fuck yeah, I don't know. They're still bothered by it, I'm sure. For sure. But like, when I look at some of these who are megastars, who are gorgeous, by the way, like, not a flaw on them, you know, and I'm like, well, these comments all exist. Like, there's no way they haven't had points where they don't question that, because I never dealt with that. I mean, I'm a dude, so I guess I'm lucky, but like, fuck.
We are lucky. We're lucky in the spot, in the sense of like, we've never had people attack our looks, or like I've never had somebody like, this dude's ugly, and like, that wouldn't even affect me because I'm not trying to look good. Not that I want to look bad, but that's not our objective, to be hot, attractive.
That's what I'm saying. I might be like, it's true.
You look like shit that day. Yeah. All right, I didn't do my hair. Like,
yeah, you're right.
But when a girl goes out, takes hours out of her day to film and create content, and now you're gonna go out and be like, you look like shit.
your nose is fucked. Like,
right, like what are you
dude.
doing, man? Like, and again, that does create so much insecurity and like questioning, who am I really? Like, do I really look that good? The reality is those girls look better than most people and way better than girls that you could ever get as the guy in the comment section. Because any guy that would actually be on that level would never comment something like that.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No, they don't. Like, that's the thing. Like, if these dudes had to show, like, their fucking girlfriend or lack thereof,
bro.
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly, bro.
You know, the game changes. It's just like, I don't know what it is about us, but people just take out their own problems in the most insane of ways. But that, again, that's the thing. Like, I would even say this without the benefit, without the, I guess, like, psychological damage of having to go through it myself, but I would say it to any of those even, like, megastar females, like, listen, you're great. You know what I mean? Like, don't worry. Like, who cares? You could fuck whoever you wanted to. Believe me.
Yes.
Like, even the ones who aren't that good looking, I'm like, trust me, you're not going to have a problem. You're going to get any fucking sugar. You could be the sugar mama to anyone you want. You know, like, I wish you could just tell them that. But, like, at the same time, you're not them.
Well,
like,
you just said it, bro. Like, the negative comments outweigh the positive comments by 1,000.
Right.
You got 1,000 positive comments, but 1 negative. What sticks in your mind is that 1 negative. And it's such a shame because, like you said, you're on defense mode to that 1 negative comment. You're in fight or flight now. And now you have to, like, attack or defend yourself to whatever that threat really was. In reality, it's no threat at all. And I think that's what women have to... Women, I say women, but men deal with it too. Anybody on social that creates content has to realize that that is zero threat to your life. It is just hearsay. It's people trying to knock you. Let it pass.
Yeah, and the one good thing that can come out of it, though, is, like, constructive criticism.
Yes.
The problem is now, though, the comment volume is so high that people will nitpick any little thing they want on their own. It could be totally wrong. And so now I'll get comments right next to each other that say the opposite things.
Yeah, bro.
So, like, I can't even, unfortunately, I have to look at it, but, like, I don't engage with a lot of it publicly because, like, I know which ones actually have a point and then which ones are like, well, no, that's literal horse shit, right? But it unfortunately, like, as you get bigger, I think that's a benefit you lose because I'm constantly looking at that. Like, well, what can we be doing better? If you're not asking that, like, get the fuck out, right? Like, what you're doing well, you can probably keep doing well. What are the things that need to be better? What things do you have to personally improve at? You know, audience can be a great way to help that, but not when it's at high volume because it's impossible.
Yeah, I think also, like, you take the Steve Jobs and, like, with the Apple stuff, right? Like, the user feedback thing, I think, is sort of a facade businesses put up to just make you feel like you're being listened to.
Right.
At the end of the day, your content and my content, who knows how to make it better is us. I know exactly what needs to happen for my content to be better. I don't need to hear you say it, right? I need sometimes conviction to tell myself that I'm right, but I know. You know what I'm saying? I know where we lack. I know where we thrive. So, like, listening to comments is like, yeah, sure, it's beneficial, but at the end of the day, like, you're the voice of reason. And if you're not, that's the reason why you're so special. That's the reason why people listen to you.
Right.
Because you are so innovative. You are so different. You're not, if you relied on feedback from other people, then you're just like everybody else.
Yeah. Look, I think there's some sort of happy medium that can be found with it. But again, when it gets, like, too out of control, it turns into white noise. Exactly.
Yeah.
It turns into white noise. But what do you think is next? Like, I love talking with you about, like, the status of content and, like, where things are, because first of all, you're talking, you make a point of talking with a lot of people who are making moves, you know, in different spaces. But, like, we obviously saw TikTok upend everything. And I don't know why that wasn't obvious. I knew it the first time I used that app, and I'm not a genius, but, you know, the whole world has recognized the attention span and therefore curated feed issue that they need to solve for people. So, you know, I've looked at, like, how TikTok's innovating, and I don't see a ton of it, which in some ways I think is good because they're not killing the product. But in other ways, I'm like, well, what's like the new thing that's gonna upend stuff?
Yeah. So I guess two things for that. Number one, TikTok in China right now is actually, like, 2 years ahead of us, right? So they have functionalities and feed. Yeah. So my buddy Malik is Chinese. He's from China. He's on TikTok. He has a
His name's Malik?
His name is Malik. Maybe his American name. I don't know what his Chinese name is.
Okay.
He's big on the YouTube version in China. I forget what that's called.
Douyin?
So he's the kid is, you talk to him, it's the same thing like talking to Mitch, or he's just got it. You know what I mean?
How do you know him?
Dude, I met him from United way back when at like Rutgers. And
Oh,
dude,
wow.
it's funny as shit and I don't mean to get too long-winded. We're sitting here.
That's why you're here, bro.
That's why I'm here.
Long wind away.
Exactly. So we're sitting outside having a conversation, and I'm, again, very receptive because at this point I had nothing. I had United. The leverage was all in somebody else's court. I'm taking notes. As we're sitting here, he has kids, Chinese kids, walking by, double looking and saying, "Oh my God, you're so-and-so. Can I take a picture?" And at the time, I was so blown away by that. But he has learned, like we said about Logan and Lance, he's been at this for so long. So what he's doing with TikTok and other platforms in China is they are making so much money because the brands and the companies in China have identified that's where their marketing spend should be going.
Wait, how's that different from what you're doing, though?
What do you mean?
Maybe I missed something. Because you said they're 2 years ahead, but the money's pouring in to the creators on Douyin, I guess, because the advertisers realize
Right.
the buyers are there. But how's that different from you? Because
So-
the same thing is happening to you.
I don't mean to say this as like an arrogant way. I'm an anomaly in the sense of like, not an anomaly. I go and get it. You know what I'm saying? Like I treat this like a business. A lot of people don't. The money that we make would not have been, it would not be made by everybody. The only reason I do is because I approach this a little bit differently than other people. But what I'm saying is like TikTok.
You go after it.
I go
you're
after
saying.
it, and I treat these campaigns as like business transactions,
Yes.
right? So
Very much so.
the features and functionalities of TikTok China are actually way more primed to make a lot of money for the brands. They do, for example, like live sessions. You can click to buy right from the live session. If I'm promoting doers on my live, click to buy the doers. So like imagine how much money a company would be willing to pay for that, right? Stupid.
Why do we not have this here?
It's so when I'm talking to Malik, and again, this is just what I got from him. He literally said to me, weather the storm. Just keep making content. TikTok is going to make these updates for American TikTok soon. It's only a matter of time. The other thing that I want to mention is like, I think because the way the economy is sort of turning over right now, the inevitability of like a recession or whatever it may be, I don't know enough about to talk about it, but it's kind of heading in that direction. Companies will not have the money to spend on typical marketing, right? Ads on Google or commercials. So with a limited budget, they are going to go for the best bang for your buck. Where's the best bang for your buck? Is it one commercial or 10 influencers? Because that's probably the same, ratio, right?
Yeah.
If you're spending 100 grand here or 10 grand dispersed out, that's where we come in. I think it's going to get worse because people are going to be stricter for like their commercial ads from like a marketing budget. It's going to go down to people like us because it's going to be a smaller budget, but from an AdSense standpoint, that smaller budget is going to increase for the creators. So I think the creator bubble or space as far as dollars is going to increase. Overall, it's going to decrease.
The one thing I'm paying attention to, though, outside the product is the growing sentiment in Washington, D.C. I've heard for a long time that TikTok's data allowances that users grant them when they use the app is insane.
Yeah.
And we know that like Trump was toying with banning them for a while, and then obviously like he deprioritized that and everything. But now there's a lot of bipartisan stuff, which is hard to find these days, coming out of DC because China does have access to the U.S. user data.
Yeah.
Apparently. And so this goes to things that are in photo feeds through clipboard messages and stuff like that. People can check it out online to see the whole thing. But is there any talk like in some of the spaces you're in about people looking at alternate universes here, which was a talk once back when Trump was thinking about banning it, because there's a worry that like TikTok could be banned? Like that's a real threat?
Like a different platform?
Yeah.
I think every influencer or creator should always be focused and have the assumption that one of these social platforms is going to die tomorrow. And even if it doesn't happen, you should be creating a community that is bigger than TikTok. If TikTok were to die tomorrow,
You're good now.
It would suck, but I would be good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be as good as I should be, but that should be your thought, because you should be creating brands that go beyond this fake world of TikTok. And I use the example, I was in Nashville a couple months ago, and I was on Broadway, fantastic time. And I went to Luke Bryan's bar. I'm not a country fan. I don't like country music. Luke Bryan was now in my head for the entire weekend because I went to his bar the entire time. I then started to listen to Luke Bryan the week after that. So my point is, start doing things off of the app that solidifies your brand in people's minds forever, right? Luke Bryan buying that bar is a great financial investment because it has expanded his reach so much greater than just his music, because he's tapping into a whole new market.
It's a destination place too.
Exactly. So like for us, I want to start doing stuff like creating a liquor, which is in the works, creating a cocktail kit, which is in the works.
You have a bourbon, right?
But like we partnered with a brand to make like a selective bourbon. We want to make an actual brand. We want to have a Terramana or a proper 12 to the Johnny Drinks, right? I want to have a bar, a restaurant, like something that is tangible that will stand and potentially be bigger than our TikTok platform. You know what I'm saying? I think that should be the goal for every creator.
Yeah, and the other thing is, with content, you have the business hat on, so that's going to serve you well because you both reinvest in making better content, but also you are looking at quote unquote diversifying the portfolio.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like that's something I want to get to, because like I don't have the juice you do, right? I'm not there yet. But like I know that once I start branching this and now I have people working here, like I have a producer, that's really the first thing I'm going to need here. Once I get that and this starts to scale, I want to look at, like, even if I don't know what projects we're going to do that are based out of this podcast, I want to be able to say, okay, for every X dollar or $1, we're going to set aside X percent as a future in escrow, call it reinvestment in the business. And I think a focus, whatever that is, should be on something where you can draw attention to the quote unquote brand.
Exactly.
That's outside of just someone's feed.
Yep. Totally. And that's, again, you look at, like, I guess your example as a podcaster, and I'm making an assumption, your goal should be becoming the next Joe Rogan, right? I would assume every podcaster is like, I want to have, not that you're like him, I want to have the status of a Joe Rogan. And what Joe Rogan can now do is, because of his presence, he could stamp his name on, what is he on, Alpha Brain or that stuff?
Yeah.
And now promote it on his podcast and double down on his investment, right? So for you, because you're so diverse, you could start to become that guy where, as long as you find something that you actually like using, like we started about, like sleep aid and stuff like that, you're going to be fine. Eight sleep, I'm sorry. Yes, 8 sleep.
Get it right, John.
My apologies. You'll be fine. You know what I'm saying? It's just a matter of time, and you're proving that. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about where we were a year ago.
Yeah, man.
How different you are now. And think about where you're going to be in a year from now. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, and it's parabolic, you know, and you know that. And again, I give you kudos, dude, because you've been grinding at this stuff, didn't see results instantly, just stuck true to your vision and knew that you had it in you, in yourself, and like, that's all that really matters. And now you have now it's easier because you've done it, right? You've achieved a level of status that you're off to the races now.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And, you know, I just treat it like it's on zero every day.
I have to.
I wake up and I say, you have 0 listeners. No one gives a fuck if you're alive or dead. And go earn some people today, right? And that's one thing I never want to lose. There's no way you can, like, if you're at the status of a top 10 podcaster, like, there's no way you can fully keep that. It's psychologically not possible. But that mentality of, like, we got to figure out how to eat, you know, you have that, and like you've had a lot of success, and like you still have that. That's maintaining that.
I mean, I don't mean to cut you up. Like what you just said was actually pretty resonating. Like that really stood out to me. It's like, earn your followers, right? Like earn your keep, earn your viewers, because every day somebody that has never seen you before is going to see you.
Yes.
So don't let your content slack. Don't let your content appear that you've done it 1,000 times. Approach every single day as if this is your first day of content creation. And I think you will be in a way better spot because now you're creating content to impress everybody. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'll get lost and I'll be like, you know what? They know who we are. I don't have to explain anything. I can create subpar content and people are going to like it. And to an extent, that's true. Right? Like I have like a baseline, like a ground that I will always achieve a level of this many views. And that's like dangerous. You know what I'm saying? Like you get that sort of leeway, but that's a really good mindset to have. And I have to, again, that's a takeaway that I'm going to have every time I create content.
Yeah, there's a quote, I think it was Hagler said it, the fighter. It was Hearns or Hagler. But he was like, it's really hard to wake up at 4 a.m. in silk pajamas and train. It's very, very hard.
Conor McGregor, bro. Conor McGregor did it. Like people that say like, oh, he should fight again. Why? Why would he ever fight again? He has 2 belts. He has made million, whatever. He'll do it because he's going to make $100 million.
Right.
He has made millions and millions of dollars. He has his celebrity status. He looks great. He's not fucked up in the head yet. Why would you keep... You've done it. You've achieved what every fighter has wanted to achieve. Why would you ever go back in a ring?
I think he's... I don't know if you did this intentionally, but he's actually a really good example in this space of how hard it is as a human being to maintain that because, well, first of all, in fighting, like you take a toll every time. So as you go along, like if you don't quit, like you're not going to be what you once were. So that's part of it. But also, he achieved the pinnacle in 2017. He had already won multiple belts at multiple weight classes in the UFC. He was one of the greatest of all time, self-made, the whole background, the fucking whole country of Ireland behind him, like all this shit, right? And then he goes and fights the best, maybe pound-for-pound fighter ever in his own sport and goes last 8 rounds with it. He won 2 of the rounds.
8 rounds.
8 or 9, whatever it was. Like, you're never going to beat that. So it's no coincidence that since then he's like 1-3 and it hasn't been the same and because it's like how can you get up for it?
You can't, bro. You got dudes that are literally fighting for their life compared to you.
Yeah.
Now he's riding on Lamborghini yachts. Like he's chilling.
He's the most. I think he's the most. Last year he made the most money of any athlete in the world. Like
he's done it, bro.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know how he feels about that because his mentality, the things that got him to that pinnacle are incredible. Like how he, I mean, I really vibe with that a lot. And it's like, well, is he just hanging on too long? I don't know. But like, I will always look up to the way that he got there.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah. Exactly. Because you look at plenty of fighters that are as talented, if not more talented, and are not where he is because they didn't have the mentality that he did.
Yeah. To
treat this like anything else. Treat this like a business. And there are plenty of creators that are like us that don't treat this like a business and will never achieve what they want to achieve because they're not approaching it the right way.
Yeah, and there's a point where you have to cross over and prioritize that.
You really do, bro, and it's the reality of it.
You figure that out quick, man. Listen, I'm really like... I love talking about this stuff. It's good to have an episode with a buddy too, where we're going back and forth on catching up on like the shit you've been doing well. But
yeah, man.
Listen, you were here, as we said, like 18 months ago, whatever it was, and you know it was already doing great. And to see it since then, it's really amazing. So keep doing what you're doing, and you know I love your whole team. Obviously, with you and your dad as the partners, Jessapini in there as well. Like. Just great people, and I hope everyone goes and checks out your page, by the way. Tell them where they can find it.
It's pretty much at John Rondi at everything. So my dad and I share the name, John Rondi.
Rondi.
Rondi. TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram. We're pretty much on every platform.
And if you type in Johnny Drinks, Johnny with a Y, it'll come up everywhere too.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Next time you're in here, I feel like it'll be at 10 million.
Hopefully next time I'm in here, we have a liquor, I guess, future plans, liquor launched, cocktail smoker launched. I want to open, my dad is so against it, but I want to open a bar or a lounge.
Tough business.
That's exactly what he said, exactly what I know. I want to be able to stamp our name on something. I don't want to be the manager. I'm not going to be the guy running around because then again, opportunity cost. I want people to make content.
Right.
I want to be able to stamp my name on something tangible like that. So
I got a few guys you could talk to with that.
We'll
who've had some success. Right. Yeah, 100%. But Johnny Drinks, thanks for coming down here, brother.
Thanks for having me, bro. Appreciate it.
Everybody else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to me.
Cheers.
Peace.